You're live.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome, everybody, to the City Council meeting of June the 9th, 2020. Madam Clerk.
Prior to roll call, the city attorney will make an announcement to the council regarding the teleconferencing of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As you know, the governor issued Executive Order N-25-20 to facilitate social distancing and prevent the spread of COVID-19. This and other orders relax Brown Act requirements and allow for public meetings to be held by teleconference. The procedures adopted for this meeting meet or exceed the standards set forth in the governor's orders. And now, Madam Clerk, please conduct roll call, and I would ask the mayor to recognize me afterward to confirm certain matters for the record.
Councilmember Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Alone.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins.
Here.
Vice Mayor Zafar.
Here.
And Mayor Clarkson.
Here. Martin, you're back on stage again.
Thank you. I would now like to verify for the record that 1, all members of the council can hear me well. 2, all members of the council have been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call. And 3, that each council member believes, based on facial or voice recognition, that all persons representing themselves to be council members are in fact council members.
Yes.
Yes.
I see affirmative responses from all 5 council members. And I will finally remind this council that any votes taken during the meeting must be taken by roll call. And with that, turn it back over to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Madam Clerk.
Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance.
We are going to go ahead and look to Councilman Alone to lead us in the pledge this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Phil. Madam Clerk.
Item 3, announcements. 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. We have none. Item 3.2, if you would like to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak on that item. Item 3.3, board, committee, and commission meetings. A complete list of any upcoming meetings can be found on the city's website, and you can subscribe to those pages for automatic notification. Item 4, public comment.
Thank you. Public comment or for items that are not on the agenda. So, and we ask also that if you wish to speak to the council, you do so for 3 minutes or less. We will go with the first 10 comments because we have a public meeting in front of us. But if with your consideration, we'll go for up to 40 minutes if we have more public comments, and then we'll have to do it during the second session of public comments. Do we have any public comments and written comments, Madam Clerk?
It appears we have both. I have written comments as well as 2 requests to speak right now.
Can we go with the 2 verbal comments first, and then we'll close the verbal comments, and then we'll finish with the written comments? Is that?
Of course.
Let's go ahead.
The first speaker is Sarbani.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
Dear Mayor Clarkson and members of the City Council. My name is Sharbani. I also go by Rita Chakrabarty, and I'm a proud resident of San Ramon for the last 24 years. Today, I speak to you in support of our LGBTQ+ community members. Firstly, I want to thank you for supporting inclusivity, justice, and fairness in our city policies. That is part of what makes me proud to be a San Ramon resident. Last year, San Ramon proclaimed June as Pride Month for the very first time, and is set to do the same today for 2020. While this is very worthy and needed, a proclamation is something that is filed away or tacked up on a wall, invisible to the greater community. So today, I urge you to raise the pride flag at our San Ramon City Hall as a visible mark of this inclusivity that you have supported and celebrated with the proclamation. A flag tells our greater community that in San Ramon, LGBTQ folks are not only accepted, they are welcome. It is a symbol of hope and dignity. There are those who will say that flying the pride flag would mean that the city opens itself up to the possibility of other groups requesting the same. That, I say, is a false argument. The pride flag cuts across race, class, gender, religion, and ethnicity, and is truly intersectional. Surely the tenets of life, healing, sun, nature, harmony, and spirit are tenets we can all get behind. LGBTQ plus folks are historically been marginalized. They have and continue to be the target for hate crimes. In these divisive times, it is more important than ever to let this community know that we support them and accept them as they are and stand in solidarity with them. If we consider San Ramon to be truly inclusive, truly outspoken against bigotry, I urge you to fly the pride flag and show that support openly and visibly for our LGBTQ plus community members, the children, teens, young adults, the mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters. They are our friends, neighbors, and our family members. Let us fly the flag and say, without equivocation, that San Ramon stands proudly with the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. You too.
The next speaker is calling in by phone, so I don't have their name in front of me. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you could just state your name.
Sure. Thank you very much. My name is Lee Levy. I'm a father of 3 and a member of PFLAG of San Ramon Valley. Thank you for taking the time this evening. I'm urging you to please fly the Philly Pride flag during June, the nationally recognized Pride Month. As a dad, the Pride flag has meaning for me as representing a community that is open and supportive of all of its citizens and one that believes diversity is a strength. A community that I want to be part of and whose businesses I want to support. For my LGBTQ child, I know that this flag is even more powerful. Members of the LGBTQ plus community are 3 to 9 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers because of the silencing, discrimination, and exclusion they experience on a daily basis. Seeing a pride flag waving above their heads in their own community provides a sense of safety and inclusion that is extremely powerful. This symbol alone may help to decrease these unacceptable rates of attempted suicide, along with decreasing the many homophobic and transphobic abuses that they experience daily. A community that knows its leaders are welcoming are more likely to be welcoming themselves. And those who tend toward hatred are more likely to quiet themselves when they know their leaders stand in support of marginalized groups. San Ramon has many members of the LGBT plus community, as almost 1 in 20 adults in America identify this way. Refusing to fly the Philly Pride flag is not just not taking a stand, it's taking a very loud and clear stand that this community does not support our LGBTQ plus community members, nor does it believe in the strength of diversity. It does not believe that by taking care of its most in need, it makes itself a better home for all. Instead, it is a community that supports continued silencing, discrimination, and exclusion. Raising the Philly Pride flag is not a political action. This is not about politics. This is about humanity. It is about saying that while we may not understand each other, we still believe all human beings should be treated fairly and with dignity. It's time for the city of San Ramon to show true leadership by supporting its most marginalized. Please raise the meaningful symbol and take a stand. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you taking the time this evening to call in. Are there any more public comments
Yes.
that are verbal?
Yes. The next request is from Ethan.
Hello, Ethan.
Hello, City Council. Thanks for taking the time to listen to us. I'm also a resident of San Ramon, and I also want to voice my support for flying the PFLAG flag. As a crew member of San Ramon, that would be great. But I'm really here to speak for an issue that is obviously prescient. I was one of the members who attended the Black Lives Matter rally last week, and I noticed a heavy police presence. I noticed guards on the roofs of City Hall, and it felt a little excessive. And so I checked the city budget, and it seems like police services do take about 1/3 of the city budget, which has happened for a number of years. And a few years ago, my family experienced a big hardship when my brother came down with mental illness. And it seemed like the resources, not just of the city, but the county are under-resourced for mental services. And so I would request that the council and sometime in the near future, look into whether or not that the budget resources that are going to police services could instead be directed towards mental health services, whether it be in our schools or creating an office here in San Ramon for the county. It seems like the only resource is really in Concord, and that was heavily impacted. And so I think that we need to do more to demilitarize our police force. I'm not comfortable with such a heavily armed force in a community that is extremely safe, and we pride ourselves on that safety. And I think that a lot of that money that we all pay into could be going towards resources that are in desperate need of help, which are mental health and such. So thank you for the time. And yeah.
Ethan, thank you so much for making your comments tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, sir. Madam Clerk, is that all of their verbal comments?
No, we have, looks to be about 5 more.
Okay. My concern would be that if anybody wishes to address the issue of funding our budget items, that would be a discussion that you should do later on in the conversation. So if you're going to be addressing issues and how we should spend money on any issue of our city budget, that should wait until later on this evening. So, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
The next request is from Lee L.
Welcome, Lee. Your mute button's on.
Looks like they lowered their hand.
Okay.
The next is from Luz Gomez.
Hello, Luz.
Good evening, council members. My name is Luz Gomez. I'm a long-term resident of San Ramon. And my comments at this point are having to do with the process of the agenda that was posted online. I noticed that the language of the proclamation was missing for items 6.1 and 6.2 for both of them. And also another process request in the future, I would like to see the entire budget posted on the agenda. I noticed that this time only a small portion of the budget was posted. And I will be commenting on the flag proclamation during that item. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next is Aparna Matareddy.
Good evening, council members. Aparna Matareddy, 23 San Ramon resident, chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee. I was going to speak about the flag at a later time, but I have another meeting. So I just want to quickly share my thoughts about an incident that I had experienced a few years back as I was walking out of a classroom with a gentleman who was in the same class. He was very quiet that evening as I walked to my car. And then I walked back to him to find out if everything was okay. And if you've never seen a 22-year-old cry, it is a pain that I will never forget. And he told me when he told his mom he is gay, she beat him with a chair, and then that chair broke on his back. That statement, that whole experience stayed with me, and I'm speaking in favor of flying the flag. As a city, we don't just take care of our day-to-day affairs. We also are responsible for taking care of the residents' health and well-being. And we need some standards in our community to include inclusiveness and promote it even more. I know Mayor Clarkson, I know you had started the San Ramon Valley Diversity Coalition Committee, which was much ahead of our times when other cities were not even talking about it. This is going a step further and consolidating what we've been discussing and sharing. Flying the rainbow pride flag symbolizes a cultural shift. It is a generational shift, and it is towards becoming a more accepting society in our community, in our city, which whether it's personal, whether it's collective, it affirms the community. So I say, let's fly the pride flag with pride and no inhibitions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aparna.
The next speaker is Shailaja.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Shaila Dixit, and I am a long-term resident of San Ramon as well. And I'm here to speak very shortly and sweetly in favor of flying the pride flag. A flag is a powerful visual symbol of what a community stands for and celebrates. It sends a very clear message to those under the flag about the values that are actively endorsed, protected, and preserved by all of us. I'm a resident of San Ramon, a mom of high schoolers, a woman of color, a domestic violence counselor, and a community organizer. I know there's trauma in all our communities, and I know that all of us coming together can have a very healing impact on our youth and give them a lot of encouragement and comfort. So I strongly and urgently request the City Council to please fly the Philly Pride flag underneath the city flag. Let us all walk on the right side of history together, and let our San Ramon be inclusive and beautiful, and let us continue to be proud of it as we all are. Thank you for the space to speak tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
We have one more speaker, and that's Sanjita.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sangeeta Biswas. I am also a resident of San Ramon, and I'm a therapist. And I just want to echo what Shailaja just said. I just want to put in my 2 bits on why it's very important that we do fly the pride flag right below the city flag. It is extremely important for our LGBTQ community, our youth, and the allies to know that they are seen, that they are heard, and it's extremely important to not feel like they have to fit in, but they belong in our community. And as a mental health clinician, I know the importance of what symbols are and how important they are, the sense of pride and the sense of belonging that it incorporates. I think it is very much aligned with the spirit of our community and our city. And I would just like to say that thank you again so much for having this platform. And I just wanted to put in there as a mother also, and as an immigrant and person of color, that would be something that I would really look forward to seeing in our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It should be, as a clarification, this is public comment. Council members are not able to respond to comments made during public comment because they have not been agendized for discussion. But thank you for your comments. And now we're going to we'll close the verbal public comment. And Madam Clerk, could you read into the record the written public comment cards?
Yes.
Thank you.
The first comment is written comment is from Jackie Guzzo. My name is Jackie Guzzo, and I'm the parent of a transgender son who graduated magna cum laude and is applying to law school. Positive pride messages and images on the electronic marquees are great. Thank you. They are not a substitute for officially flying the Philly Pride flag underneath our city's flag. Thank you for the Pride Proclamation, in which all citizens are asked to recognize the contributions made by the many members of the LGBTQ+ community and to actively promote the principles of equality. Thank you for recognizing June as Pride Month 2020 and annually hereafter. Our local chapter of PFLAG, which is celebrating its 25th year, is made up of both the parents, families, and friends of kids who happen to be LGBTQ and members of the LGBTQ community. Many of our chapter members have LGBTQ kids who are happy and living very successful lives. Many other families didn't learn their kids were LGBTQ+ until after they left K-12 and went away to college. On visits home during spring break or holidays, their kids came out to them right before returning to campus. Why have there been so many kids in San Ramon who are afraid to talk to their families about the thoughts they were having around their gender or who they wanted to date? Why do kids have to leave San Ramon to live as the awesome people they are? Our kids are becoming lawyers, judges, doctors, award-winning teachers, while others are successful in STEM fields. They are social workers and kids who are raising their own families. Our kids are just like your kids. Our LGBTQ citizens are just like us. Months ago, I submitted a proposed flag policy for the city of San Ramon with inclusive language in order to make this systematic change. Back in March of this year, you received an official request to fly the Pride flag at the same time you received the request for this Pride proclamation. At last week's policy committee meeting, the city clerk acknowledged you had received our official request to fly the flag, which was sent back in March. I'm asking you to approve that request and that the Philly Pride flag be flown underneath the city flag as a symbol that says we want our kids to come back home to live and work. San Ramon is better with you. Let's show our civic pride and fly the symbol that we are a diverse community inclusive of our LGBTQ+ citizens and loved ones. The next comment is from Pooja Prasad. My name is Pooja and I'm a longtime resident of San Ramon and an ally of the LGBTQ+ community. And I strongly believe that the pride flag should be flown alongside the city flag as a symbol of solidarity with the LGBTQ community and a sign of inclusion and acceptance for all of the residents of San Ramon, regardless of their sexual orientation. As someone who grew up in this city, I know that many of my peers did not always feel welcome, included, and comfortable here. A flag is a symbol that can encourage inclusion and make our citizens from the young child to the seniors feel like they belong. Flying the pride flag is a common sense action that should not require much discussion. The next comment is from Shailaja Dixit. A flag is a powerful visual symbol of what a community stands for and celebrates. It sends a clear message to those under the flag about values that are actively endorsed, protected, and preserved. I'm a resident of San Ramon, a mom of high schoolers, a woman of color, a domestic violence counselor, and a community organizer. I strongly and urgently request the City Council please fly the Philly Pride flag underneath the city flag. Let us all walk on the right side of history together. Let our beautiful San Ramon be inclusive, loud, and proud. The next is from Rutuja Rajwadi. I grew up in San Ramon, and a part of that upbringing included acknowledging your peers and celebrating everyone who has made an impact. I believe it's San Ramon duty to extend that appreciation to our friends and family in the LGBTQA+ community who have been extraordinary contributions to this town and its citizens. I ask that you fly the Philly Pride flag underneath the city flag in recognition of our wonderful peers in the LGBTQA+ community who exemplify resilience under hardship, true authenticity to self, and remind us that love is for everyone. The next is from Allison Gardner. During those tumultuous moments, when you're standing up for all we believe, when we say Black Lives Matter, when we push our fists into the sky, we are standing up for the right for all people to be heard and seen and honored as humans. We should say yes to every opportunity to show support, to claim what is right, to fight for those with no voice. Today in San Ramon, California, you have that opportunity. Today you are being presented with a proclamation to support June as Pride Month. I want to thank the City of San Ramon for considering proclaiming LGBTQ+ Pride Month, but we need to ask for more. I've worked for the San Ramon Valley Unified School District for 12 years as an out gay teacher. In that time, I have found so much fear here. I have heard so many stories of loneliness and despair. There are so many families who do not accept their kids when or even if they come out. Recognizing this invisible minority is a game changer. Having symbols of support literally saves lives. Seeing a pride flag makes me feel valued, seen, supported, and possibly understood. If only for a moment, and that moment means everything. For once, the world around me is saying you belong, instead of please hide away. Don't hold hands, don't tell your stories, don't show who you are. Seeing a pride flag makes me feel safe, if only for a moment. Today, this week, this month, right now, we need symbols to show who we believe should be in our communities. Please use this symbol. Please hang the Philly Rainbow Pride flag on the City of San Ramon flagpoles at City Hall. Please do what is right. Please help us all feel we belong, because so many of us do not feel this today, yesterday, ever. The next is from Mega Narong. I want to add a public comment for tonight's meeting. I support the flying of the pride flag in San Ramon. It is important we are inclusive, loving. Just having the flag itself represent our feelings and might be so supportive. The next is from Colleen Carney. I'm writing this letter to show my support for our friends. I'm a white, straight female parent with 3 straight high school kids at SRVHS. I strongly encourage you to adopt the PFLAG's proposal to fly the pride flag during Pride Month. Let's do the right thing proactively this time and not ask for forgiveness after not showing a support to a community that has been neglected. Think of the young and old lives that you just want to feel included and not discriminated against. This just seems like such a win-win that I find it hard to believe that I need to write this letter. I've looked into these kids' eyes and all I see is love and the need for inclusion. What do we have to lose? One less child thinking about suicide, one less community feeling like they need to hide who they are, one soul feeling lost. I'm still learning so many things about how to be more inclusive. Please help others feel it's normal to want to learn how to be inclusive. It's a great start, and what do you have to lose? Let's show our pride in the LGBTQ plus community, how proud we are of them, especially during Pride Month. The next is from Naina Sharastri.
Excuse me, Christina, how many are there?
I have probably 7 left.
Thank you.
Whenever I look around our neighborhood, I see so much open space and such beautiful colors. Now I think it is time we bring this openness and color into our lives as well. I support the flying of the lovely pride flag along with our other flags in San Ramon. It has become more important now than ever to be understanding, inclusive, and tolerant. Let's make our multi-generational, multicultural community a true melting pot of humanity. The next is from Bruce Hickson. My wife and I are longtime board members of the San Ramon Valley chapter of PFLAG, which provides support to our LGBTQ plus community. We believe it is most appropriate time for you to decide to fly a Pride Month flag. Doing so will provide a more substantive and inclusive welcoming to a marginalized part of our community. In addition, your greater support will help overcome systematic bias, for which there is now a more clear public understanding of its association and passiveness. At PFLAG, we experience the resulting harmful health impact of LGBTQ plus inequality that is less likely observed by many. The next is from Carrie Cliff. I identify as a white female with pronouns as she and her. As an ally of the LGBTQ plus community, I encourage you to let our be seen, heard, and proud. A display of the flag at City Hall allows for that to happen. It is important for everyone to be inclusive of all. Please consider this and display the pride flag. My name is Connor McKenzie, and I am a college student and have grown up in San Ramon. I am a part of the LGBT community. I believe San Ramon should fly the pride flag because it's a celebration of the LGBT community and shows San Ramon as welcoming and inclusive place. The pride flag is a universal symbol or hope for the LGBT community. My name is Cindy Oji Marchis, and I both reside and teach in San Ramon. I implore you to vote to fly the pride flag in an official capacity in our city. Now more than ever, it is glaringly apparent that it is the responsibility of individuals and municipalities alike to ensure that all people feel welcome and safe in their communities. Flying the pride flag at City Hall sends the message that San Ramon is striving to be inclusive space for all LGBTQ plus residents. As an educator, I've worked with many members of San Ramon's LGBTQ youth community over the past decade and have heard their pleas for visibility and acceptance. As a heterosexual cisgender married woman, I recognize that my own experience in our city differs greatly from that of my LGBTQ plus adult peers. And I want to ensure that their relationships and parenthood is validated as well. Flying the pride flag is an important step in making our fellow community members feel safe, respected, and represented. San Ramon's diversity is one of many strengths. We have such amazing, bright, and kind residents of many different backgrounds. With this decision, the council has the opportunity to ensure that a currently underrepresented group can take pride in both themselves and the city in which they live and work. Lastly, please remember that while flying the flag does not cause harm to anyone, abstaining from flying the flag does hurt LGBTQ plus people. It sends a message that they are unwelcome and their contributions are not appreciated. Sentiments which are categorically untrue. Flying the flag provides hope to so many. This is a moment in which you can do your part in acknowledging and celebrating our neighbors and dignifying with action. This next is Cindy McKenzie. I work and have lived in San Ramon for nearly 20 years. I'm a parent of 2 amazing kids who have been in the San Ramon School District their entire school academic career. I'm an active member of the San Ramon Danville chapter of PFLAG. I'm a proud ally of the LGBT community. My son is an amazing transgender individual who was president of his GSA, Gay Straight Alliance Club at DDHS. He is an honors student in college, and I could not be prouder of him and the man he has so beautifully become. I believe San Ramon should proudly fly the pride flag because it celebrates our LGBT community and shows that San Ramon is a welcoming, safe, wonderful, and inclusive place to live and visit. It should bring a huge smile to my face when I pass the pride flag in San Ramon during my daily commute. The last comment is from Faye Isaacson. As a parent of a transgender son who attended elementary, middle school, and high school in the San Ramon School District and was the only out transgender student of all 4 years of high school, I thank you for recognizing June as Pride Month in San Ramon. But I'm also asking that you fly the Pride flag each June, since that is more visible symbol of supporting our minority population of gay, bi, lesbians, transgender, non-binary residents.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And thank you to everybody who took time out of their days to write us a note and to speak to us this evening. And a note also, because this is a public comment, we are unable to respond to comments during public comment. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 5, consent calendar.
Items on the consent calendar are deemed routine in nature, but anybody from the audience or from staff or councilman can ask for an item to be pulled for further consideration. Is there a motion?
I'll move 5.1 through 5.6.
Dave had his hand up. Dave? You're on mute, Dave, so.
That would answer why you went ahead and made the motion. I'd like to pull 5.1 for a separate vote.
Okay, I'll move 5.2 through 5.6.
I'll
Is there a
second. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for items 5.2 through 5.6. Any comments? Seeing no comments, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Yes.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion to approve items 5.2 through 5.6 passed unanimously.
I'll move 5.1 for a separate vote.
I believe that is after special presentations.
Well, that's usually deferred for a report. Do we just want to, Dave, do you just want a separate vote, or do you just want a
Separate vote. Okay. That is fine. There is a motion to approve 5.1. City Attorney, are we okay doing this out of order perhaps?
You may do this out of order. Well, it's not really out of order, so yes.
Thank you.
Go forward.
We just
I'll
need a-
second.
Okay, just want to check with you, sir. Dave, did you want to have anybody from staff, or you just want to go ahead and, because we discussed this and
We've
have
talked
a
it to
vote?
death. It
We
was the
have.
same position we took at the studies.
Understood. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilmember
Actually-
Hudson,
No.
I was going to make a quick comment.
Please
think
go
we-
ahead.
It confused me a little bit as well, because it said the amount not to exceed 55,000. And then it went on to say not to exceed 423 to 55.
I'm not sure I understand the
one.
context of that.
That we're talking about 5, right? Item number.
5.1.
5.1. This is the reserve policy where we're going to go from 40 to 36%. Is that an accurate reflection, Dave?
Yes
Thank you.
Do I
and
have?
no.
Okay. I have a different item. I don't know why.
5.1, you don't see resolution 2020-043 approving the statement of general reserve fund policy?
5.5 is the item with the 55,000 in it. It's been-
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not pulled back for discussion.
Okay. Okay.
It was only 5.1.
All right. Yeah, we discussed that. My bad.
Yes, we have. And for further clarification, just so people are not confused, I think the relevant part of this is that there was a change in the reserve policy from 40% of our last year's ongoing expenses to change it to 36% of last year's ongoing expenses. Is that an accurate but very quick summary? Anybody on council agree with that?
Agreed. Agreed.
Yes.
Okay,
We're in
just so
middle
the
of
audience is familiar with the point of view of at least perhaps two of us that we wanted 40 and perhaps the rest wanted 36, but Madam Clerk, go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Hudson,
No.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Nay.
The motion passes with 3 in favor and 2 against.
Correct.
Item 6, special presentation 6.1, proclamation declaring June 2020 as Dine Out San Ramon. Introduction by Community Development Director Debbie Chamberlain. Presentation by Mayor Clarkson.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, I'm here to introduce a proclamation to support our local restaurants as they begin to reopen for dining service. In response to the COVID pandemic, on March 16th, Contra Costa County Health Services issued a health order which resulted in the closure of many restaurants or limited operations to takeout or delivery service. I am pleased to note that on June 5th, Contra Costa County Health Services issued an amended order allowing restaurants to reopen with outdoor dining, and beginning July 1st, we anticipate indoor dining may resume with appropriate social distancing. This updated order shows we have continued to flatten the curve in the spread of COVID-19. Additionally, in anticipation of the amended order, the City Council on May 26th adopted a policy to allow temporary outdoor restaurant seating and other commercial activities to pursue outdoor activities to help businesses regain some of the lost business capacity while still practicing health and safety. We encourage residents to dine local and support San Ramon restaurants during the month of June. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Mayor Clarkson.
Thank you, Debbie. I believe we'll be doing a proclamation. We're sharing the screen with the council and with the audience. And with that, I will start with whereas on March 16th, 2020, the Contra Costa County Department of Health Services issued an order directing all individuals living in the county to shelter at their place of residence. And whereas the shelter in place resulted in reduced services for many restaurants and commercial activities. Whereas on June the 5th, 2020, the Contra Costa County Department of Health Services issued an updated health order permitting non-essential businesses, including outdoor dining, to reopen following social distancing protocol. And whereas the City Council desires to support the reopening of business in San Ramon and protect the health, safety, and welfare of San Ramon residents, businesses, visitors, and staff is the highest priority of the city. And whereas on May 26th, 2020, the City Council adopted a resolution easing outdoor seating for restaurants and commercial activities to allow these uses more flexibilities to reopen and practice safe social distancing while protecting the San Ramon community. And whereas the City Council recognizes the difficulty that restaurants and all commercial businesses had operating under the March 16th county order. And whereas Dine Out San Ramon gives us the opportunity to support San Ramon residents, and therefore be it resolved that the City Council of San Ramon does hereby proclaim the month of June 2020 as Dine Out San Ramon. We urge all residents to dine locally and support our San Ramon residences. Dated the June 9th, 2020. Anybody have any hands on council to comment on that? And Debbie, thank you for taking care of this. I know it's very important to our businesses. We had some of them on in the chamber talking last Friday on the Mayor's Breakfast of the importance and how they're both struggling, and we appreciate the patronage that residents give our businesses and our restaurants. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll go with Sabina and then Scott.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Debbie, for bringing this proclamation and bringing attention to how much our restaurants have been struggling. I've seen a few pictures now of restaurants which have put out tables and are doing outdoor dining, which obviously builds community, gives us that nice warm feeling, which, as a city and a community, we do need. What can we do to help in making sure that, we are helping promote some of these restaurants, bringing attention to them? Anything you need from the council, do let us know. I think I would love to have this followed with an action of what can be done to support and promote some of these restaurants.
Thank you, Sabina. Scott.
Yeah, I noticed.
I'm sorry. Debbie wanted to comment. My apologies.
Sorry, I can briefly respond. We've been working with Stephen and Simone on getting the word out through the social media webpage. And so we are getting requests from restaurants to expand their outdoor seating. So the word is getting out there. We will be doing social media blast weekly to make sure folks know about it and reaching out to the shopping center owners too.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies, Scott. Go ahead.
I just happened to drive by Clementine's today on San Ramon Valley Boulevard near Bollinger. I noticed they had their tents out, and so I know they'll be inviting diners to dine outside at their location. And I read online that Hop Yard is also open. They're outside. You know, they've been having outside dining for years there, and there have been plenty of times where their outside dining is completely full and there's plenty of tables left inside. Their outside dining has always been very, very popular. So the Hop Yard over by the Trader Joe's and Nob Hill and the Clementines are two that I know are open and serving.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Seeing no other comment. Thank you, Debbie, very much. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Item 6.2, proclamation declaring June 2020 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, presented by Mayor Clarkson to Elisa Tinker and Allison Gardner of PFLAG Danville San Ramon chapter.
Thank you, and have them come up online. I believe you're both up.
Hello.
Hello.
This
Welcome.
is Elisa Tinker. Dear Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council of San Ramon, California. On behalf of the many residents, students, employees, and business owners of San Ramon who contribute to the rich fabric of our city, PFLAG of Danville San Ramon thanks the Mayor for signing this proclamation declaring June 2020 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month and annually each June hereafter. The parents, families, and friends who are our PFLAG chapter's members know that the health and well-being of LGBTQ+ individuals depends on the love, support, and acceptance of their families and the communities in which they live and work. For the past 25 years, our chapter has been meeting the needs of the parents of LGBTQ+ kids and advocating for equality here in San Ramon.
Thank you for helping our PFLAG families and our community locally by encouraging residents of San Ramon to support members of the LGBTQ+ community and to actively promote the principles of equality. Our local PFLAG chapter is responsible for supporting all members of our vast, diverse community by ensuring their voices are heard. Thank you for standing up, speaking up, and showing us we have a voice. We want to say on this 9th day of June 2020, thank you for demonstrating that you see and value the LGBTQ+ citizens of San Ramon. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you both for coming out this evening. Madam Clerk, I believe we may have some public comment on this before the proclamation is read. Is that true?
Yes, we do have one request to speak from Luz
Great.
Gomez.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and community. I just wanted to say that I see no reason why San Ramon should not be able to fly the pride flag. Even in the absence of a flag policy, I urge you to fly the flag proudly to let the community know that we mean what we say on our marquee when we say everyone is welcome here. As a symbol of unity and acceptance, and to go along with this proclamation, the flag will help San Ramon join the many other communities that are now proudly flying it. As to where to fly the flag, it is proper protocol to fly the flag in the position of lowest honor, which would be underneath the city flag. So along with the proclamation, I would urge the city council to fly the flag for the rest of this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further public comment, with Allison's and Elsa's permission, I'd like to read the proclamation. And
Mayor, I think I see one.
We have one more request to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
From Ethan.
Hi, Ethan again. I would like to say hi to Allison Gardner, who was a mentor of mine during high school. She's done amazing work and is an inspiration to students at Doherty Valley for, I think, the better part of a decade now. I also want to say for the public record that pride is owed to Black trans people, and we would be nowhere without them. And that should also be acknowledged citywide. And hopefully going forward, we can do more to recognize their contributions to the LGBTQ+ community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, no other comments?
No other requests to speak.
Great. It's my pleasure, if I might, to read this proclamation. Proclamation from the City of San Ramon. Whereas the City of San Ramon is committed to making San Ramon a place where everyone is welcome. And whereas the nation is founded upon and is guided by a series of principles, including that every person has been created equal, that all have rights to their life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that all shall be afforded the full recognition and protection of the law. And whereas the City of San Ramon recognizes the importance of equality and freedom, and is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its citizens and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And whereas the City of San Ramon is strengthened by and thrives upon the rich diversity of our ethnic, cultural, racial, sexual orientation, and gender identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of the city. And whereas many residents, students, employees, and business owners within San Ramon who have contributed to the enrichment of the city are part of the LGBTQ+ community. And whereas June has become a symbolic month in which the LGBTQ+ community and supporters come together in various celebrations of pride. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of San Ramon does hereby proclaim June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month annually in San Ramon, and encourages residents to recognize the contributions made by the members of the LGBTQ+ community and to actively promote the principles of equity and liberty. Signed June 9th, 2020. Allison, thank you very much for being here this evening. For those who have commented, but I'd like to open up if anybody on the council has a comment to make. I don't see any hands up. Thank you both for being here, especially.
There's 3 hands up.
I can't see it. Oh, okay, Scott. My apologies. My eyes after so many Zoom meetings are going badly. My apologies. Go ahead. Got to turn your mute off, Scott.
There we go. To Allison and others, I want to thank you very much for working with the city to develop this proclamation and getting the wording correct, because I know we had to struggle through that. And I look forward to having a city flag policy that will support having our the pride flag flown at City Hall. We need to have a policy so that we can be fair to all parties, and that would be including the LGBTQ+ community as well. So I look forward to that day when we will be flying the flag.
Scott, I would remind us that this is not on the agenda. Martin, is this a conversation, because it's not agendized, that can be talked about?
We do have an agenda item coming up in an upcoming meeting, so that it would be appropriate to debate and deliberate about flag policy at that time.
Yes, I think it's important. It's not tipping one's hand, but if we're going to have this kind of discussion, the whole community needs to know about it, and not people show up and be surprised that people were talking about how they felt about this without members of the community pitching in. So it's not a reflection upon the pros or cons. It's the process, making sure that people would know about that before we have a discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and as you know, under the Brown Act, if we were to come to a consensus here at this council meeting, absent an agenda item, that would take the decision.
Exactly right, and I don't want to do that. So I hope you guys understand that. Sabina.
Dave, did you want to go first? I know you had your hand up.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, again, Elisa and Allison, thank you so much for educating us as well in terms of the wording and how to really properly recognize I appreciate you bringing it to, the basically request for proclamation. This is the second year that we've done it. The first year we did the proclamation. This year we're doing the digital boards and we're lighting up City Hall. So we're all moving in the right direction. And I believe, our flag policy is on the agenda. So we will discuss that when that makes it to the agenda. So thank you so much.
Dave.
Give me a minute to breathe here. First of all, let me say that we had a statement that not flying the flag is not making the LGBTQ community inclusive. I don't agree with that. The problem is—
Dave, don't mention the flags.
See, this is the problem.
We have not noticed this discussion.
Mayor, we at policy, and I'm not going to get into a dispute with the mayor and the city attorney, but we made it pretty clear that this council needs to discuss this. So if we're telling people now that we're putting this off for 2 more weeks, I would seriously think about doing a special meeting just for this. This is not what people were looking for tonight. I'll leave it at that.
Phil.
I agree with Dave. This is not an item that should have been held off till the end of June. And I don't control the agenda, but it's like talking about Christmas in January. So with that, I look forward to having this discussion soon.
Super. Thank you, Phil. See no further hands up. Ladies, again, thank you very much for coming this evening. Have a wonderful evening and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Item 7, deferred consent items, we have none. Item 8, adoption of ordinances. 8.1, ordinance 501, approving the pre-zoning, pre-zone 20-610-0010 of approximately 901.65 acres in the Gale Ranch Phase 4 Remainder Development, Doherty Valley Annexation Number 18. Resolution number 2020-050, authorizing an application initiating proceedings for reorganization of boundaries for Doherty Valley Annexation Number 18, Gale Ranch Phase 4 Remainder.
Great. Is there anybody on staff who is going to talk about this? Are we looking for a motion? Martin? Just go right ahead.
Looking for a motion, yes.
Thank you. We'll make sure we're clear so the public understands.
I'd like to make a motion approving the pre-zoning 20-610-0010 of approximately 901.65 acres in the Gale Ranch Phase 4 Remainder Development, Doherty Valley Annexation Number 18. I remain puzzled why 901.65 is approximately, but that's just editorial commentary.
And I'll second it along with the resolution of 2020-50 as a friendly amendment.
And I will add that I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
We ain't reading that stuff.
Okay, moved and seconded. This is adoption of ordinances. There is no public hearings, correct, Martin?
That is correct.
Thank you. Let's make sure again for the public's edification. Seeing no hands risen. Oh, I see it, Scott.
Yep. This is the final annexation of this process. We've been doing this for 20 plus years. Dave's been here doing either planning commission or council member for every single one of these annexations.
I think so.
And then we send it off to LAFCO, and then it's ours. And we're grateful for it. We welcome all those homeowners and apartment dwellers and everybody else out there. It becomes ours. So this is a great day.
I'd like to also just add, if I could add, I don't know if Robin's the right person to ask a question of in this regard. The opening of the Doherty Ridge Trail is going to be part of this, and I'm curious. I'd like to know, maybe Robin, if you could give us an update on that at our next city council meeting. I'd appreciate that. Unless Debbie, you have something really quick that you could let us know about.
I do not. Robin would probably be the appropriate one.
Okay, I'm fine waiting until for 2 weeks. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands raised, Madam Clerk.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed unanimously.
I'd like to point out this may be one of the largest acquisitions of open space that San Ramon has had in a heck of a long time. So nice to get it done.
Yeah,
I
it
agree.
we get it, it becomes part of the GAD. So that GAD votes we had earlier in the day will help protect that open space that we've got out there.
You had to remind people of that.
I'm sorry.
We have 600 acres of open space as part of this whole parcel, from what I remember.
That's a square mile, by the way.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Approximately.
Item 8.2, Ordinance 502, adding Chapter 4, Electronic Filing of Campaign Disclosure Statements to Division A3 Elections of the San Ramon Municipal Code.
I can move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I heard Alone jump in there first.
Third.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed unanimously. Item 9, City Council appointments. We have none. Item 10, approval of minutes. Before you are 4 sets of minutes for your approval or amendment from special meeting May 26th, the regular meeting on May 26th, the special meeting on June 2nd, and the emergency meeting on June 2nd for your approval or amendment.
Great. Martin, may we make one motion for all?
Yes, you may.
I'll move 10-1, 10-2, 10-3, and 10-4.
No, second.
Moved by Hudson, seconded by Perkins. Any discussion?
Yeah, don't let him change his mind.
Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Aye.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. Items 10.1 through 10.4 were passed 5-0. Item 11, unfinished business. We have none. Item 12, new business. 12.1, resolution number 2020-051, adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 operating and capital budget, establishing an appropriation limit, and authorizing carryover project appropriations. Staff report by Administrative Services Director Eva Phelps.
Hello, Eva.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and City Council. So I'm here to give you a presentation on some highlights of the fiscal year 2021 budget. Okay. Are you able to see?
We had it for a second.
I know, and then it popped off. Let me try this again. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, so starting off, we started with a budget development process. We started the budget back in January. The council had their retreat for their goal setting in February, and then the departments got together and tried to finalize their budget in March. Right in the middle of finalizing our budget to present to the city manager, COVID-19 hit. We had to go back and revise our projections for this year so that we would know where we kind of start for next year. So that was a big process that we had to maneuver through. We got through making those adjustments, and in the end of March, we were able to present the budget to the city manager. And after that, after the city manager review, we had 2 budget sessions with the council on April 14th and May 12th. To go over the development of the budget. And then on June 2nd, we actually presented the full proposed budget and 5-year capital improvement program to the full council. So the proposed 2021 budget expenditures are projected at 127.2 million. We have operating budget of 79.1 million, special revenue funds of 100,000. Our debt service funds are 4.9 million. The capital budget is 31 million. Our internal service funds is 12 million. The Doherty Valley GAD is 800,000, which is included in the operating budget, and the housing successor expenditures is 100,000. This chart just shows you the percentage expenditures by fund, and as you can see, the general fund makes up almost 40% of the total. The total budgeted revenues is 112.4 million to pay for the services. The surplus from prior years that have been accumulated of 4.8 make up the total to fund the 127.2 million in expenditures. 47% is general purpose, and the other 53% is restricted for special purposes like the GADs, the special revenue for capital projects, our housing successor, debt service, and internal service funds. So this is just graphically showing you that the total revenue, general fund makes up almost 47% of revenue. So going on to our operating budget, our operating budget consists of the general fund, Doherty Valley Fund. We have 20 separate lighting and landscaping special district funds. We have a stormwater fund. We have 2 geologic hazard abatement funds. We call that GAD. And then we have some other small special funds. So the operating budget expenditures by department is 79.2 million. And that's 2.3 million more than the previous year for 1920. And that's due to, that's about a 3% increase. And as you can see, some of the departments that have had increases is basically for salary and benefit costs. On the police side, who had the most increase, that is due to salary and benefit costs. We have some increases in our dispatch, our county, the dispatch services, and our county animal control service. There was some crime lab contract services that have increased their budget, and their budget actually increased about 7%. So the operating budget revenues are 84.1 million. General purpose makes up about 63% of the budget, and the other 38% is restricted funds. Going on to the general fund, expenditure budget is about 50.3 million. That's 1.8 million or 3.7% more than the 1920 revised budget. Some of the significant factors that increase the general fund expenditures is increase in utility costs, our service contracts, wages and benefit costs due to our MOU obligations that we have. However, some of the offsets that decrease some of the expenditures were some tier 1 service level reductions in our parks and recreation, which equate to about maybe 200,000 of some activity that they won't be able to do for the summer months. When we had to go back and kind of look at the expenditures again, some of the departments, we had to kind of realign and make a few cuts in some of our just operating expenditures. Also, what helped decrease is that the additional employee contribution towards pension. Currently, the employees are paying the full employee portion, which is anywhere from 8 to 9%. And also the employees are now paying 3% of the employer portion of pension. Okay, expenditures by department showing you that the expenditures increased 1.8 million from the fiscal year 1920. General fund revenue are estimated at 52.5 million. And here on this graph, you can see some of the revenue in comparison to fiscal year 1920. It's we're about 200,000 below or 0.5 below this year's revised budget, and some of the revenue streams that we're seeing that have dropped mainly due to the COVID-19 crisis is sales tax, property tax, and TOT, and charges for services. Here's a graph just showing you, kind of summarizing that revenues, expenditures, and the net transfers in, comparing it to 1920. Going on to the Doherty Valley Fund. The Doherty Valley Fund tracks service costs to the CSA area per the agreement. Expenditures are 21.7 million, up about 500,000 from this year. It includes an expenditure of 100,000 for contributions to capital projects. Sources funding the CSA is the CSA assessments and property tax, and other sources, which is the transfer in from the general fund. Some new infrastructure that's coming online for next year in the Doherty Valley that the city will be maintaining is 9.81 acres of landscape, 3.23 street miles of roadways and sidewalks, 162 streetlights, and 3.8 miles of trails. Moving on to the Internal Service Fund, we have an equipment replacement fund. For next year, we plan to replace some vehicles and equipment. That's $700,000 worth, $400,000 of computer equipment. At the end of the fiscal year of 2021, the equipment replacement fund will have $3.7 million for future vehicles and IT replacement. The infrastructure maintenance fund, the year will start out at 1.2 million. We have earmarked 600,000 for capital projects and ending the year at 600,000 for the year. We have no general fund contribution this coming year for the infrastructure maintenance fund. The retiree healthcare funding, we have about 1 million in collections that we charge the departments to pay for the retiree health care. We are budgeting 300,000 as a payment to OPEB trust. We have 31 that we're estimating about 31 million in the trust at the end of this year of June 30, 2020. Per the April 2020 actuarial valuation report that was presented to council last month, we're 95% funded. We have a liability the liability is 32.7. And we do have the 31 million in assets. So we're looking at an unfunded, per the report that we have an unfunded liability of about $1.6 million. Under pension costs, CalPERS actuary as of June 2018 is 36.1 million of unfunded liability. It increased about 7.7 million from the previous year. We should be getting another actuary sometime in the next month or two for 2019 actuary. We've implemented several strategies to address rising pension costs. We set up a pension trust a few years ago, and we're estimating that we would have about 4.2 million in that trust by the end of June of this year. We have debt service funds, our pension obligation bonds, POB. The debt service payment for next year is 1.4 million. Once we make that payment, the end of the principal balance will be at 14.6 million at the end of the fiscal year for next year. We have two certificate of participations. We call them COPs. The 2011 COP, the payment for next year is 1.6 million. The payment is principal and interest. And then the principal balance at the end of June 30, 2021 for that particular COP is going to be 1.4 million. So this one will be paid off in about another two or 3 years, I believe. And then our new 2019 COP, the debt service payment for next fiscal year is 1.6 million. And after that first principal payment is made, we would have 19.9 million in principal in outstanding. So on to general reserves, the proposed amendment, even though the council earlier in the meeting approved reducing the general reserve policy to 36%, but the 36% is an estimate of general fund expenditures plus the Doherty Valley transfer from the general fund. So to satisfy that, the policy, we would need to have 17.4 million to as a requirement. And as you can see in the chart, we're starting the new year at 20.4. That's our estimated ending balance as of June 30, 2020. We're going to use 1.6 million. We will have 18.8 million in the reserve. So that does satisfy, that's more than the 36%. And just to kind of let you know on the, where it says transfer from bond fund, it's just, we're just taking the money that we put aside years ago in the bond fund, that we're moving it back to the general fund so that all the reserves can be in just one place. So capital improvement program for fiscal year 2021, the capital budget has 67 projects for a total of 30.8 million. The entire 5-year CIP 2021 through 24-25 has 131 projects. The budget is 89.7 million, and 4 new CIPs projects were introduced, and they're listed there. So the future outlook, we have economic uncertainty due to the effects of the COVID-19. We still don't know the impacts. When we prepared this budget, there was a lot of unknowns, and we just made our best guess, but we're closely monitoring. Now that things are opening up, hopefully we'll start seeing things kind of gradually get back to some kind of normalcy. We're still looking at rising costs of pension across the state, all driven by CalPERS board. We have unfunded projects and rising costs of infrastructure maintenance that we are concerned with, that we need to keep an eye on, and our population growth and staffing. So as you can see on this chart, our population back in fiscal year 11-12 was 74,378, and we're now at 83,118 in population. That's about a little over 8,000 in population. And if you look at the staffing from this year to next year, we're not increasing our staffing. However, from 11-12 to 2021, we're only showing for an increase of 4 authorized positions. So this resolution number 2020-051 approves the fiscal year 2021 operating and capital budget, which establishes expenditure authority for the city. It also establishes the appropriation limit that is required by the state law, and also to carry over unspent capital project funds from the CIP into the new year. So if the council approves the resolution tonight, the next steps would be to finalize the adopted budget and capital budget documents for distribution, and then we'll also post the document to the website. That is the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Questions, and/or we can go to public comment. So what we'll do is, Madam Clerk, anybody for public comment?
I have 2 written comments for this item, and it looks like we have 3 requests to speak.
Let's go to the request to speak first, okay?
And for those in the audience, just a reminder, if you like to request to speak, please use the raise your hand button at this time.
And we ask that you keep your comments 3 minutes or less.
So the first speaker is Luz Gomez.
Good evening, council members. I believe that a budget reflects a city's priorities. For example, with this budget, I see that certain department funding has increased, while the amount of money allocated to parks and community services has been decreasing over time. For example, the public works budget has gone from 30 million to 34.5 million since 2017. The community development department has gone from 3 million to 4 million, about 4 million in the same amount of time. And the police department has gone from 20 to 25 million since 2017, while the number of staff has remained the same. So while these services have increased As I mentioned earlier, it looks like the Parks and Community Services has not been increasing proportionately. In the future, I would like to re-examine our city's priorities so that children and families have more services, more classes, and more parks to play in. I would like to see the Parks and Community Services budget keep up with the population growth and for our families to enjoy this beautiful city that we have. One other thought is that last week I requested that the 0.7 million in vehicle replacement costs that are estimated, you're setting aside 7 million to replace vehicles. I would like to request that the city consider purchasing electric vehicles whenever possible. And I think that concludes my comments on the budget today.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful comments.
The next speaker is Tanya Talwar.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, my name is Tanya Talwar. I've been a proud resident of San Ramon for almost 20 years now, and am now a student in medical school to become a doctor. So I view a lot of what is going on in the world right now from the lens of public health. As you may know, police brutality and racism were named public health crises by the American Medical Association. And I personally was recently able to advocate for a cease of violent crowd control methods, such as rubber bullets and tear gas, to our state assemblymen and women and state senators. But as a woman of science, I am interested in asking questions that challenge the status quo and look to improve our systems. As someone who has also attended San Ramon's Black Lives Matter protest and looked into our city budget, I can't help but wonder if we are asking our policemen and women to do too much. We are asking them to be mental health professionals. We are asking them to be addiction experts, address issues rooted in financial instability or trauma. And I wonder if the police themselves could draw up a public health or public safety system from scratch. Is this what they would draw? On the state of California, I believe Assembly floor, there's a Crises Act, AB 2054, which would be a pilot grant program for supporting community organizations and better fit experts to respond to immediate emergency situations such as mental health crises, intimate partner violence, natural disasters, and more, and is gathering rapid support. I would urge our respected San Ramon City Council to play an active part in implementing such measures at our local level through the reallocation of some of our funds for San Ramon PD in order to allow our PD to specifically target the scope of responsibility where they may have the greatest and most efficient impact. There is significant research that shows that investing in community has a direct correlation with decreasing crime, and if the council would consider rethinking the budget allocation today, that would be wonderful. But if not, I would urge the council to delay the vote to spend more time listening to San Ramon constituents. When it comes to military equipment, there's also research showing that communities with a militarized police force have nearly twice as much violence in police constituent interactions than communities with no militarization. And for this reason, I hope to see the city of San Ramon turn down any potential military equipment transfers from the DoD 1033 program, if applicable. Additionally, aside from budget concerns, we have seen the state of New York repeal 50A, which shielded police misconduct records from the public. And I similarly encourage the city of San Ramon locally or in relation to state policies, work to increase the transparency of such data and accountability of our law enforcement. As the named safest city in California, I would be so proud if San Ramon paved the way for innovation in rethinking safety by reiterating a community-driven approach. Specifically, I ask that the City Council commit in writing to decreasing the police budget or delay the vote to allow for further constituent comments, to invest in community and care, such as existing programs in human and health services. 3, demilitarize by removing any potential military equipment from police departments and refuse future military equipment purchases or transfers. 4, work to increase transparency and accountability of our law enforcement. And 5, generally shift away from relying on prisons and jails to correct crime and work to address the root of crime or unequal access to resources wherever possible. I thank you for listening and allowing me to voice my concerns today. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Ethan.
Hello, Ethan.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. I want to echo Tanya and point out that over the past 5 years, it seems the police budget has increased by 4.3 million, and now with this new proposal, it seems like it's set to increase by about 6 million, while at the same time, community development, parks and community services, housing programs, and healthcare were all decreased over that same period of time. Tanya laid out some really great points. I also want to say that I believe the city should conduct an annual audit of 911 calls of the constituents to help guide budgeting allocations for community safety. We should also direct funds to hire and train social workers to assist residents who are struggling with mental health and drug abuse. Or we should also take the initiative in working with the county to determine how our city can help countywide efforts to address mental health and drug abuse without police involvement. I also want the city to take steps to educate the youth of our city of resources for mental health and drug abuse. I believe that the funds for those kinds of initiatives can come from the police budget, which, as the previous 2 speakers pointed out, has increased dramatically while other services have decreased and while the population has increased. That does not make sense for the safest city in California. I want to again express my disapproval of the heavy-handed and, in my opinion, excessive police presence at the Black Lives Matter protest. I think it reflects both an underlying distrust of our residents and the excesses of our city police force. I do want to express my gratitude for a police force that they dedicate themselves to our safety. I am not advocating cutting their salaries or pensions, but with the same number of personnel and an increasing budget, it does seem like that funds are going towards the militarization of our police force, which is, I believe, unacceptable and should be deterred at all costs. I believe our city can and should take the lead on innovating and diversifying systems to protect and care for each other. Thank you. Oh, and I also want to second Tanya's suggestion that the budget not be voted on or be postponed for further comment and for a reconsideration of why the police budget is once again, for seemingly the 5th year in a row, increasing by millions of dollars. It does not make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan.
The next speaker is Sarbani Chakrabarti.
Hi, Mayor and City Council members again. I want to also echo Ethan and Tanya's requests. I want to show my support for what they're asking. And also I read that there is a idea in the works to start some kind of a drone program by the police department. I'm not sure if that's something that's been in the works or what the status of it is, but I think that's connected to what we are discussing today in terms of the police budget and transparency. So I would also request that we hold off on taking any steps to approve the budget until we've had more comments from city constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last request to speak, but I do have 2 written comments for this item.
Okay, I'm going to close the verbal public comment and we'll go to our written comment.
The first one is from Robert DuPont. Some comments on Nextdoor indicate that the issue of cutting support to the police department will be brought up to at the next council meeting. You may remember that when we created San Ramon, one of the reasons was to establish a strong San Ramon Police Department. Had Danville succeeded in taking over territory down to Crow Canyon, we would have been left with only county services. That occurred when we had only a few thousand residents. Today, San Ramon has over 80,000 residents and a community is still growing. The state and counties are also requiring us to build more compact residential housing. Still, we are acknowledged statewide as one of the best communities in San Ramon to live in. In the coming years, we will need greater police services to meet our needs if we are to remain one of California's best places to live. Do not let pressure from loud voices, no matter how well-intentioned, cause you to reduce financial support to our fantastic police department. Another issue which may arise is the need for substantial financial reserves in the budget. The City Council's wisdom in maintaining sufficient reserves is being highlighted by the current financial difficulties experienced throughout the county or the country. Things are looking up a bit now, but who knows what the future will bring. No one expected the pandemic that has brought financial ruin to so many. Do not reduce reserves to meet the financial whims of those who want city funds to be used to support their pet projects. Especially today, it is critical for the council to continue managing city resources with both strong minds and hearts. San Ramon residents are confident that you will do what is best to keep our community safe. Thank you for your service. The next is from John Larson. I'm a longtime resident of San Ramon who has worked in law enforcement. On June 1st, the police chief reached out to the community by email in a video. In it, he expressed his understanding of the sadness and frustration of the community following the death of Mr. Floyd. He also said the San Ramon Police would be partnering with the community to make improvements, but he was not specific. I asked the city what those improvements will be, how they will be implemented, and how will they be communicated. It is important for the community to know this. I asked this question because I see nothing in the budget for the following fiscal year for the San Ramon Police Department to address any new initiatives. I understand this budget was probably prepared before people protested in front of City Hall, but the budget doesn't describe any goals and major action plan items regarding what the police chief discussed or regarding the complaints of residents. Consequently, I ask that the budget be amended or supplemented to specify the improvements the police chief will be making in the coming years. That was the last written comment that I received.
Great. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Open it up for questions to Eva about the budget. Given this is our third or fourth time we've gone through this with her. Thank you, Eva, for your patience and walking us through each time. I don't see any hands up right now, although my having Zoom. Sabina.
Go ahead, Sabina.
I think Scott and Phil, you guys had it before, your hands up before me. Go ahead.
Hey,
okay.
We've all received a lot of input from the community through emails and other social media. And one of the things I really recommend to people going forward is that they take advantage of our free classes that we offer in our Government 101 class, our Citizens Police Academy, and our Planning Academy. Now, the Citizens Police Academy is so popular, we run it twice a year, and hopefully we'll be able to run it in the fall, if not in the fall, certainly in the spring. But take those classes, learn what we do in PD, and I'd be welcome input on those things. People should know that when we get a call for service, and please contact Chief Stevens for more details. We get a call for service that involves somebody who's dealing with mental issues, mental crises, or schizophrenia, or some other situation in their family. Our police department follows up with that family to make sure they're getting resources. We don't just take them and pull them out and then leave everybody hanging. We work with the family so that we can help the person in distress, and we can help the family in distress. It'll be interesting to see over the next few months what the state government through the legislature or through executive order provides us in terms of changes in policing policies and a number of things. We'll be interested to see how that plays out, because those will affect us, and we will participate in that. People should also know that part of the decrease in the Parks and Community Service budget was due to the pandemic. We're not going to be able to hold the same number of summer concerts. We can't do those group activities like we did, and the indoor things like at the Dougherty Valley Performing Arts Center, those indoor concerts and performances there. So there was costs associated with those, and there was revenue associated with those. But when you don't do those things, you don't need to allocate funds for those things. So some of the decrease in the Parks and Community Services was due to the pandemic, and Kathy Hyman and her team are doing their best to restore as many of those activities as possible. In the future, I hope to learn more details about the policies and programs in our San Ramon Police Department. I've taken the Citizens Police Academy, but it was many years ago, and I've done probably 6 or 7 ride-alongs. And I talk with the Chief of Police on a pretty frequent basis, but I need to learn more of the details of the policies and programs that we use. And I also hope to work with the city manager and police chief to explore options in our police department policies and programs in a transparent manner that it does include the public going forward. But I want to commend the staff for putting together this budget going forward under these very, very difficult circumstances. They had to turn around effectively 2 budgets in the time we only normally allocate for developing 1 budget. And they did a fabulous job. And I thank Eva and all of the directors and the division managers and everybody that helped to put the budget together. Thank you very much. That's
Sabina. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So one, Eva, thank you so much. I know it took us about 6 months to really get through the budget, put everything together, and it does take that much work to make sure. And then the pandemic happened in the middle of all of this, and we had to pivot from that. So really appreciate all the hard work you've put in making sure you've constantly been able to update us, have meetings, and take input. I think as far as some of the comments go in the police budget, it's certainly in another 6 months we're going to start having conversations again on a budget, and there is always room for improvement, for change, for rethinking how we do things. We have certainly received a lot of public comment. We've received through emails, through social media, and I just want to tell everybody that you are heard, even if you did not get a reply back or not. We're certainly taking it in. I have personally talked to the police chief as well, and we are certainly going to think about how we innovate going forward, and how do we rethink how we provide these services. Nothing is perfect. We come into this, doing things a certain way. The world changes around us. We get more educated. We learn a lot more. And so the way I see it is this year is now beginning of how we start learning more and how we thoughtfully think about what services we're going to continue to provide within the capacity of our budget as well. So, it wouldn't make sense for us to just stop the budget in the middle and say we want to change things, but it would make sense for the next budget as we start thinking about it, as we start having those conversations, including, with citizens and engagement. How do we really think more about the community involvement, the community services that we provide as under the umbrella of our PD department as well. So again, just wanted to say thank you, and you're heard, everybody's heard. We will continue to have these conversations, and I think we will innovate and rethink how we're going to be doing things moving forward.
Thank you. I believe, Phil, you're up next, and then Dave.
Thanks, Bill. Eva, how much what's our additional contribution on the dispatch from previous years?
I don't have that number handy, but I'm pretty sure the chief may know.
I'm sorry, Bill. Joe, it's hard to hear you. Can you turn up the volume on your?
600,000. Can you hear that?
Okay, so it's $600,000. All right, so this stuff is actually easy to. It's easy to understand where these numbers come from. They aren't impossible to understand, but they're complicated. And there's been a lot of thought going into this. And so the most significant increase in the end, I would have to say that I think the mayor and Councilmember Hudson and Councilmember Perkins would agree that I've probably been the least likely to cheerlead the police department over time, just probably because of where I grew up. But I have developed a healthy level of respect for this police department because we have things like a highly educated police force, which studies show that if they have bachelor's degrees, they're much less likely to get into the sort of stuff that we've seen in the recent past. That's one item. $600,000 of an increase of
1.6
overall of 1.6. The other largest single piece of this is these are collectively bargained contracts. These are contracts that the city has with the police union. And we can't say, no, we're not going to give you the raise that we've collectively bargained. That's the second biggest chunk of this. And it should come as no surprise that the biggest piece of the police department's budget, just like in healthcare, is people. There's 88 FTEs. There's also questions about, why less parks? Councilmember Perkins pointed out some of the reasons. Social distancing means forget large gatherings. But there's also been positions moved around. So if somebody moves from parks to public works, it's not because we don't like the parks, it's because it makes more sense for somebody who fixes things all the time to be in public works, not to be in parks. So you're going to have regular and it's not some value judgment that we think parks are something we ignore. This city has more parks per capita than any city in the country, to my knowledge. So we don't have to take a backseat to anybody in terms of what our parks are like. So the other piece of this is that I don't think people have an appreciation for things like the difficulty of rooting out and keeping them rooted out bad police officers. And that's a state thing. We can advocate for that, but we've experienced that. I've experienced that as a city council member. And I don't think, and we have to pass a budget in the next 2 weeks by law. So this isn't something that we're going to wait another 2 weeks on. At least I don't think I see that happening. This is a difficult time to put lots of things together. I frankly appreciate a lot of the input from Tanya Talwar and Ethan and the other person who spoke. I think that, citing things like AB 2054, I'm supportive of looking into things like that. But it's also how our governments are set up. Mental health and health services are generally a county responsibility. They're in a city responsibility. That's the way our government works. So, and the county doesn't throw a lot of money into mental health down this way. At least that's my interpretation of what's gone on. And we've actually invested in things like the Discovery Counseling Center, which is a San Ramon sponsored mental health thing. So we've done a bunch of stuff. And we don't have police brutality in San Ramon. If we did, the guy who's the city manager wouldn't have a job because I wouldn't have voted to hire him to go from the police chief to the city manager. We have an excellent police department. We have folks who care. We also have a bunch of police officers that are in schools. And we hear people saying they want the police officers there, not that they don't want them there. So, those are things that would in some communities be in a school budget, not in a city budget. Should they be more social workers than police? Maybe. That's not a bad idea. I don't really know. Some of this will evolve, I'm sure, but collectively, this represents a collective judgment of the city manager and his staff, and we've made tweaks to things over time, and I'm sure we will in the future. But we're not going to turn on a dime, but we will continue to seek input and probably make some changes over time. And Eva, I just got to say, I know this was a doubly difficult thing, and thank you for you and Joe and the rest of the team for pivoting on all this. Thanks.
Dave.
Yeah, I think it's, I think Phil pretty much, actually, all three of you touched on just about everything, but I don't want to let one thing go. The priority in this city, every time we do a retreat, is safety. And it starts with the police. And to say that we're spending too much, I listened to something yesterday that said, take that money from the police and send it to Richmond or Antioch or Oakland for social services. You're still going to need it for the police. I don't think that this city has ever spent too much on police. We are constantly looking for improvements. Lou's mentioned something about the electric vehicles. I don't think Joe wants to hear that from me anymore. I'm constantly bringing, yeah, that's what I thought. But that same city manager, when he came from being chief of police, the first thing he asked for was to go to the renewable energy car and could do away with his car allowance. And we're constantly trying to do things to improve. When I hear that heavy-handed remark, the first thing I thought of is people don't realize how few police officers San Ramon has compared to the other cities, not only in the Bay Area and Contra Costa County. We have 0.7% per thousand when the minimum standard that we voted for in Measure C was 1 per thousand. The last time I looked at Oakland, they were like 3.29 per thousand. And they didn't feel like they were getting the job, and they're not getting the job done. But these are the kind of things that when people cry out for transparency, they need to know about these things. We're one of the safest cities in America, and we're doing it with a minimally staffed police force. And they are not expensive chargers, but I won't get into that. I think Eva has done as well as you're going to do on this budget. I don't think you could do any more. And the reality is it's time to put up or just politic. And I'm ready to vote for this tonight.
Thank you, Dave. First off, I think overall budget, tough year. I'll tell you, this is one of those tough years, Joe and Eva, to right in the middle of it all, to have to pivot and to literally in March and redo the whole thing. And so hats off to every department chair in our city who I know wanted to protect their budgets to the extent they could, and yet came together and gave Joe and Eva a budget you guys can and we can work with. So to every budget department head, thank you for what you did on that. The second part is, and going back to this topic about the police, one is, again, people have talked about, we are perhaps the safest city, one of the safest cities in America. And I think for our size, and there are about 100 cities larger than us in California, we're the safest city of any of those 100, number one. And there's a reason for that. Actually, I think there's two good reasons. We've got an amazing police force that, by the way, our city manager, Joe Gorton, was very involved in creating our police force back in 2007. And of course, our leadership from Chief Stevens right now and leading the group. But I think the other reason that this is a great city with low crime is our residents. We have amazing residents who are absolutely engaged and helpful and very supportive of our police department. Keep in mind that we've had surveys over the years, and we've asked our residents consistently, at least every couple of years, how are we doing as a city? And our police department's gotten well above 90%. In fact, maybe Joe or the chief can tell me exactly what those numbers are. But our residents are very satisfied with the performance of our officers. I can't recall a time where we've had incidences come up to us or people have complained about the behavior of our police. In fact, it's just the opposite. We receive numerous letters from residents thanking our police officers for the things they do every day. And it's, so I got to say a shout out to every officer that is on their beat, whether they're on a motorcycle or whether they're in a police car. The residents of San Ramon appreciate what you do every day. And when you come to work, we got your back. We got your back. There is Councilman Perkins talked about this. We've had a police academy. I think it's gone on for at least 14 years, 13 years. We've probably had well over 600, maybe 700 of our residents.
I took it 16 years ago.
Oh, there you go. So it's been, we may have in excess of 700 residents who have gone through that academy. And for anybody who's gone through the academy, starting off on day one, that Wednesday night, when you first began to hear about your next 13 and now 14 weeks and the things you would learn, probably one of the greatest assets that our police have done over the years is to have those residents who understand what the police do every day. And they walk out of that at their graduation with a true appreciation for what our officers do. And they're out there both on social media and other forms telling people what wonderful department we have and the things they do every day. And I got to tell you, we received many comments over the last 3 to 4 days. Maybe my other fellow council members haven't, but well over 100, maybe 150 comments from people talking about this. And I was surprised by many of the comments because they were not reflective of the experiences that our residents, over the last 9 years I've sat in this seat and what I've heard from residents, but that doesn't mean that we sit pat. In fact, my other council members have talked about this. In fact, I would strongly encourage that in addition to how well we're doing, we should maybe reach out to our diversity committee and have them work with our police department and create a forum or a mechanism where we can sort of do an extension of like the police academy. And again, residents who have been working really hard on diversity these last 2 or 3 years on that committee is a great group to start with to learn more about and ask questions about what we do as a city and as a police. And I think that, at least my opinion is that they would continue to sing the praises of this department, and I think be great advocates to residents and why they need to support police. When police know they've got the backs of residents, it makes them better cops. It makes them better cops because they'll do whatever it takes when they know they're truly appreciated. And I think that's important to know. I also want to do a shout out to Police Chief Stevens. You put out a video last week. It's been viewed some 18,000 times. If you look at the thumbs up and thumbs down, it's like 98% thumbs up. I think you got a great reception to that. I appreciate that you reached out as a representative of the city to talk to the residents about some of these hard conversations that we are all having. And so thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Summing it up, I think this budget, as difficult as it's been, I don't have anything to really object to. I support what's going on. I hear there's some closing comments, so I will reach out back to Phil and then to Scott. Phil, go ahead.
Thanks, Bill. Just one, there was a suggestion made about a 911 audit. I think that would be, one of the things that is everywhere in this country, the police are asked to do more than they were really trained to do, in my opinion. Assessing a situation, going in where there's, it's the chief's memo is not a pleasant thing to read weekly on as a council member, because one sees what goes on behind closed doors, domestic disputes, etc. And to the extent that Councilmember Perkins mentioned the follow-up that happens as it relates to social work referrals or mental health referral. I think we should dig into that some more here in the future to see what is happening. Is the follow-up happening, and get some reports out on that. And maybe there's probably some room for a better understanding. And I think that would be useful because Tanya's in the medical profession, so am I, and the ability to pull trends out of data is something we're probably able to do now with our dispatch center, et cetera. I think that would be really useful to see, are the follow-ups happening, and can we see likely improvements, or is there something that we can do there? I think that would be really something good to come out of this. So I appreciated that comment, and I forgot to mention that. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Phil. Scott.
I just wanted to move the resolution 2020-051, adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 operating and capital budget, establishing an appropriation limit and authorizing carryover project appropriations.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I can second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed unanimously.
Next item.
Item 12.2, resolution number 2020-052, public hearing confirming the landscaping and lighting district number 1984-1 diagram and assessments and levying the landscape and lighting district number 1984-1 assessments for fiscal year 2020-21. Staff report by Public Works Program Manager Sean Anderson.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a quick presentation for you. So I'm going to share.
Hi, Sean.
Hi. Uh-oh. What just happened here? Oh, no.
Are you trying to share your screen? There you go.
Took me a minute, but I got it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so tonight I'm here to talk to you about the Landscape and Lighting District 1984-1. Some facts about the Landscape and Lighting District. The district was formed in 1984. Its annual property owner assessments, assessment fund maintenance, and public landscaping, lighting, and other amenities. There are 2 citywide zones, 17 special zones, 19 separate zones, 19 separate funds. District is reestablished each year by city council action. There is maximum rates and assessment rates for each zone. The maximum rate is a not to exceed assessment amount voted on and approved by property owners for each zone based on improvements to be maintained and replaced, renovated. The actual assessment may be less. So you have the assessment rates, actual assessment charged annually to property owners on property tax bills. Assessments may be increased by city council action up to the maximum assessment rate. Maximum assessment rates, citywide zones 1 and 2. City may increase maximum rate annually based on CPI up to 2% per property owner approved ballot in 2006. Special zones 3 through 12, maximum rates set by property owner balloting in 1997. Zone 5 by special ballot election in July of 1997. Increase would require property owner ballot approval. Special zones 13 through 17, which was established after 1997. Maximum rates established through property owner balloting at time of creation. Increase would require property owner ballot approval. Special zones 18 and 19, which were established after 1997. Maximum rates established through property owner balloting at time of creation. Property owners approved maximum rate increase of up to 2% annually based on CPI. The 2021 reserve study completed and presented to Finance Committee on May 11th. It assesses adequacies of funds over 30 years for renovations, replacements, emergency repairs, or unforeseen circumstances. Here are some recommended increases. This is for zone 1 and 2, which is citywide lighting and citywide landscaping. You'll see in February of 2020, the CPI was 2.9%. That means that these 2 assessments will be increased by 2%, which is roughly $2.03 per unit. Some more recommended increases, special zone assessments, landscaping and other amenities that provide special benefit to properties within the zone, which you can see all the zones on the right-hand side. We are asking for an increase for Deerwood Zone 8. The increase would be from $85 to $95. Their current maximum rate is $115. We're also looking at Crown Ridge Zone 13. Their increase from $685 to $705. Their maximum rate is $1,000. And also, as you know, what we talked about before, in February 2020, CPI was 2.9. We also will be increasing 2% to the Glass House, which is zone 19. We also this year have some recommended decreases. We're looking at Canyon Lake, zone 3, decreased from $110 to $90. Their maximum rate was $110. Old Ranch Estates, zone 10, we're looking at decreasing from $380 to $350. Their maximum rate is $380. Four Oaks, zone 14, we're looking at decreasing from $175 to $165. Their maximum rate is $175. And Circle E, zone 15, decreasing from $275 to $250, and their maximum rate is $300. A couple other things to bring up. There's some underfunded special zones. Vista San Ramon, which is zone 4, and West Branch is zone 6. We are considering or looking at resident outreach. Also consider balloting for the FY 2021-22 balloting. Here are some CIP projects that we have for this upcoming year. This is citywide lighting, which is zone 1. As you can see by the pictures, we're going to do some signal pole painting. And here's some other stuff, some other pole painting that needs to be done. Citywide landscaping, we're looking at doing some landscape renovations and some tree removal and replacement. This is a section on San Ramon Valley Boulevard past Bollinger, heading north before Norris Canyon, and on El Costa at the south end of town. And then Deerwood Road Center Median, we're looking at replacing a lot of plant material there. We have Canyon Lakes. We have $45,000 there for some landscape renovation and some tree removal and replacement. The one on the left is Crow Canyon Road. It's up the sides of the hills on Crow Canyon Road. And then we're looking at Bollinger Canyon Road on the north side. And then here's some of the tree removal. This picture is actually something that happened this year that we had to take care of. And I think it's going to be an ongoing thing because these pines are just really big and not a good structure anymore. Vista San Ramon, we're looking at tree removal and replacement. A lot of you know this area has had oleander trees there forever, and those stakes have never moved since I've been here. So we're looking at removing those and putting in some crepe myrtles, and hopefully we can get rid of these tree stakes. Summerwood Loop, zone 5, we're looking at doing some landscape renovations along Iron Horse Trail. West Branch, this is some more infill along Doherty Road and along Crow Canyon Road, $7,000. Bink Creek, we're looking at some landscape renovations for $25,000. We're looking at removing some of these turf areas and replacing it with plant material. Deerwood, as you can see, we have $5,000 for there. It's for landscape renovation. This is more of just infill for that amount. Old Ranch Estates, zone 10, we're looking at upgrading some irrigation controllers, some remote control valves, and we're going to look at doing some landscape renovations on the courts at Old Ranch Estates, upgrading the irrigation system. It's in need of a lot of repair for the irrigation, but we're looking at replanting some of this. Village Parkway, we're looking at doing some more turf removal and landscape renovation for $15,000. El Nido, zone 12, we have $5,000 for some tree removal, which you can see some of the trees are looking so good. So we're going to replace some of those. Crown Ridge, this area for $5,000. This area is along SRVB. It's just before the shopping center along San Ramon Valley Boulevard near the freeway. And there's no scheduled capital improvements for 2021 for Country View Zone 9, Four Oaks Zone 14, Circle E Zone 15, Thomas Ranch Zone 16, Henry Ranch Zone 17, Old Ranch Summit Zone 18, and Glass House Zone 19. So staff recommendations, we'd like to increase max rate of assessments zones 1 and 2 by allowable CPI, Zone 19 by allowable CPI, increase assessments to Zone 8 from 85 to 95, and Zone 13 from 685 to 705. We're looking at recommendations for decreasing Zone 3 from 110 to 90, Zone 10 from 380 to 350, Zone 14 from 175 to 165, and Zone 15 from 275 to 250. And there will be no change to any of the other special zones. So this is reestablishing the district. The first steps we took, adopt a resolution describing new improvement and ordering the preparation and filing of the engineer's report, which we did on March 24th. That has been complete. We have approval from the Finance Committee for the engineer's report to adopt a resolution of intention to levy and collect assessments and setting a public hearing. And the final steps are here tonight. We're here to conduct the public hearing to adopt a resolution confirming the diagram and assessments and levying the assessments. And then last but not least, staff will file the final engineer's report by August 10th of 2020. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. I think what I'll do is go right to public comment off the bat, and then we can go to councilman questions. Do we have anybody who wants to comment?
I do have one written comment for this item, but for those in the audience that would like to speak, please use your raise your hand button at this time.
Has anybody raised their hand?
I don't have any requests to speak yet.
Then I'll close the verbal part and let's do the written.
So the written comment is from Susie Ferris Indercom. This is a formal protest against the continued illicit administration of the overall landscaping and lighting district number 1984-1 and the blatant discrimination against the 196 executive homeowners in Zone 5. The city continues to claim that the Patio Homeowners Association represents the entire zone when it in fact does not. The city has failed yet again to meet with the 196 executive homeowner to discuss a restitution plan for the damage the city has done to them, including the fact that over 50% of the executive homeowners are being illegally taxed for city landscaping services they do not need nor receive. The public parcels within the executive homeowner sections of Zone 5 remain in deplorable condition. The irrigation system is broken or purposely turned off, resulting in the numerous dead plants along Fallview Street. The new planting along Fallen Leaf Circle is also dying. The city literally abandoned the zone of Zone 5 for over 10 years. The fiscal year 2020-21 engineer's report is wholly inaccurate and once again falsifies the money spent in Zone 5. It claims to have spent $20,000 on landscape renovations when in fact the city only produced receipts in the amount of $3,290. The report claims to have spent $5,000 on asphalt pathway rehabilitation. No money was actually spent for the purpose during the 2019-20 fiscal year. No Zone 5 money should be spent for that purpose. Yet over $47,000 has been spent on the asphalt pathway, primarily in front of the Patio Homes area. The only reason Zone 5 has an asphalt pathway is because the city forced the developer to complete the pathway in asphalt instead of concrete, which had already started pouring. Regardless of the material, any pedestrian access repair should be paid out of general funds. Over $250,000 of Zone 5 funds have been illegally spent on the installation of irrigation and landscape renovation and maintenance on Springfield Drive. Springfield Drive is probably private property that belongs to the Newcastle Patio Homes. No Zone 5 money should ever have been spent on it. Doing so is in a complete violation of the ballot election that established the zone. It is illegal for the city to alter the zone without voter approval. I'm asking once again for the City Council to direct Public Works to meet with the taxpayers in Zone 5 to discuss a restitution and dissolution plan for the zone. Zone 5 must be brought back into legal compliance under the law. That was the only the written comment that I've received for that item.
Great. I will close public comment. Is there a motion and or any questions?
I'll move to close the public hearing and adopt resolution number 2020-52.
I'll second.
Your call, Christie.
I had 3 seconds.
Let them.
What's 6?
Rock, paper, scissors?
Well, then don't count me. Just pick a name. Thank you.
Councilmember
Okay.
Perkins,
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions?
I just want to thank Sean and the folks that maintain those. You know, I look at what we did out on Bollinger out towards 2401 in that median area where we changed it from turf to planted landscaping. And here it is. It's probably been almost 10 years since we did that. And it looks fantastic. And so places where, you know, people say, oh, you can't take out our turf. Well, frankly, you take out the turf and you put in something that's really interesting. It looks better and it's easier to maintain, uses less water. So thank you, Sean, and the whole Public Works Department that works on that stuff. I really look forward to seeing some of those areas renovated. San Ramon Valley Boulevard, there's some trees that really suffer. I guess that's the El Nido district, but they really suffer in windstorms. They split and there's probably 6 or 8 trees now that have been cut down and not been replaced. And I hope that sometime in the future on San Ramon Valley Boulevard, somewhere between Montevideo and South, we can replace those trees that have been cut down because they were damaged so badly in windstorms. We lost another 2 trees just this past week or 10 days. And slowly but surely all of the trees are getting damaged and cut down.
Paint the street lights.
We're looking at replacements.
If I can make a comment, Sean, as you were talking about the Iron Horse Trail, obviously, I think we're all passionate about the Iron Horse Trail and I guess walking it more and more, you know, during the last few months. There's a lot of traffic there. I know we need a lot of trees and shades, and I understand there's utilities and things, but I think continuing to focus on that and maybe even getting community involvement, because at least I get asks from these different groups all the time, whether it's Boy Scouts or some other community group that really wants to help out under your guidance, get their support to, you know, start growing trees along Iron Horse Trail. What doesn't make sense to me is why do the same rules don't apply to Danville? And they seem to have a lot more shade and trees versus, you know, you cross on the other side of Bollinger and we seem to have lesser shade and trees. So just, you know, kind of want to continue to raise that because I think it's really important. And people have discovered our trails and, you know, now hikes and bikes even more during this time. And so there's a lot more attention going into that. So I would love to continue to see more vegetation on that trail.
Oh,
Dave's smiling.
And 40 years.
I've been trying for 16 years to get more trees on there. You can find Herb Monique. That was
what? We got a motion. Are you talking, Scott, again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can find Herb Moniz, that was one thing that when I would talk about trees on the Iron Horse Trail, Herb would roll his eyes. He'd say, you know, that is the county and that is East Bay Park District. And between that and the utilities that run under there, it's been a nightmare to get what we have. You know, what is it about 3 years ago, Bill? The Rotary clubs and other community groups put those little oases, you know, we put about 10 little oases out there. And that was a major accomplishment. But I absolutely agree with you, Sabina. It would be wonderful to get some trees, particularly on the west side, so that they cast the shadow in the afternoon on the trail. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Been moved, seconded. See no further discussion. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hudson,
Aye.
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar,
Aye.
and Mayor Clarkson.
Aye. What we're going to do real quick is we're going to take a 5-minute break because I think some folks may want to take a break. It's 25 after. No more than 5 minutes, and then come on back.
And while Sean's still here, replace the no stopping signs too. They're fading.
Can you ask your sister? What? Daddy can ride with her.
Hi, Christina.
I always liked recess as a kid.
Yeah, thanks for that. That was much needed.
Well, we don't need, we got to play dodgeball or something, right?
Well, not all of us have the carrying capacity of others, so.
Oh, okay, yes.
My cat was just meowing out there and wanted to be let in.
I had to ask my wife to come in and take the cat out because he began to claw at me and wanted to get on my lap, and that was not going to work.
I think your cat can join us for council meetings.
No, not that one. Thank you for letting me have that 5-minute break, you guys. Worked out well.
Will we ever see Dave again?
He looks like he's got a swarm of bees.
Murder hornets.
It's another plague.
That's not July yet. July is the next thing.
Oh, the next plague of
whatever.
Yeah, we're going from one to the next. Yes, of course.
Yep. Dave, all right. We are all back. Joe's here, city managers, city clerk's here.
The attorney.
We're all set. Joe, do we have all the players lined up we need for the next?
Yes, we do.
Great. Then I'm going to call us back into session. Madam Clerk.
Item 12.3, resolution number 2020-053, public hearing confirming the preserve landscaping lighting district assessment diagram and assessments and levying the preserve landscaping and lighting district assessments for fiscal year 2020-21. Staff report by Public Works Division Manager Robin Bartlett.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you heard, the item is for a public hearing for the 2020-2021 assessment for the Preserve Lighting and Landscape District. And I'd just like to give you a brief summary. So as you're aware, the Preserve L&L is new, and to date there have been no acceptances of improvements for maintenance, although the first is expected soon. The annual maintenance cost for the preserve upon acceptance is expected to be approximately $86,000 with an annualized replacement budget of approximately $54,000. The engineer's report also includes a contingency factor of approximately $10,000, administration costs of $8,500, and the total costs are approximately $159,000. Not all of that is accessible. The total accessible cost is $147,636. Currently, we're estimating that there will be approximately 256 benefit points available for assessment at the beginning of the fiscal year. Therefore, the revenue generated will not be sufficient if all of the completed improvements are accepted by the city. However, we believe that is a conservative assessment, as so is the assessment that we're estimating. Assessment for the preserve is $172.
Robin, your audio is.
Your audio is not working
now.
Yes.
So we
I've heard that noise before, just saying when meetings have been hacked. So just want to make sure we're secure here.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So currently we're anticipating that under the worst case conditions where we accept all of the improvements early in the year, but we only have partial completion of the housing, then we will have insufficient funds through 1 year of assessments to pay for all of the improvements. However, the L&L currently has a reserve of $70,000 from assessments of the previous year, which would be sufficient to carry us through the entire year, including building reserves for long-term replacement costs. So the maximum assessment for the preserve is $373.66, and this can be increased by inflation each year. Once acceptance has occurred, we'll be monitoring the actual costs of doing all of the maintenance and establish CIPs for the long-term replacement of the improvements. Do you have any questions?
Nope.
No questions? Public city attorney, should we have a public hearing on this?
Please.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Just want to make sure. I will open the public hearing. Do we have anybody who's raised their hand?
For those in the audience that would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand button at this time. I've received no written comment for this item, and it appears we don't have anyone requesting to speak.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will close the public comment time. Is there a motion for discussion purposes?
I'll move resolution 2020-053, confirming the Preserve Landscape and Lighting District Assessment Diagram and Assessments and levying the Preserve Landscape and Lighting District Assessments for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing no hands up, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilmember Hudson.
Aye.
Councilmember Alone.
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar.
Aye.
And Mayor Clarkson.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Robin, for all your work.
Thank you.
Item 12.4, resolution number 2020-054, establishing a voluntary campaign expenditure limitation for the 2020 municipal election, and I'll be presenting the staff report. This coming November, the city will hold an election for the mayor and 2 council members, District 1 and 3. The courts have held that the amount spent by candidates on their campaign election cannot be limited. the city does address this issue in the municipal code. The council could consider a voluntary campaign expenditure limit based upon the number of registered voters while taking into consideration the price of postage, the number of mailings, and the cost of campaign signs. Consistent with past elections, the city has established a voluntary campaign spending limit and offered candidates the opportunity to voluntarily agree to that limit. As of May 15th, there are 44,228 registered voters in San Ramon. And within the staff report, I did provide a breakdown cost for all three positions with the various amounts. The policy committee reviewed this information on May 27th, 2020, and recommended an expenditure limit for the mayor of $1.25 per registered voter, which would set the expenditure limit at $55,285. An expenditure limit for the council members of $2.25 per registered voter, which would set the expenditure limit of $25,819 for District 1 and $23,510 for District 3. Staff requests that the City Council establish a voluntary campaign expenditure limit for the 2020 municipal election that would be reasonable and fair to all candidates. And staff will incorporate any changes as directed by the City Council, and the City Clerk will include the information in all election filings. If any questions?
First thing I'll do is open up for public comment. Anybody from the public would like to comment on the proposed staff recommendation?
No one has raised their hands.
And I will close the public comment. Is there a motion for discussion purposes or any questions? Scott?
I'll move resolution 2020-054, establishing a voluntary campaign expenditure limit for the 2020 municipal election.
I'll second.
I think that was Mr. Alone seconding that.
Bill Alone.
Any other questions, clarifications?
Yeah, if I can, rather than get the hand, because it'll be quick. I mean, you and I discussed this in policy. We went over about as many different directions as we could on the thing. And I think the point that you made is very well taken. When you're doing a district, you still, even though it's a quarter of the amount of people, you still have to do money for setup. You may have to pay for a consultant. And you're probably going to be looking at a less field for your campaign contributions. But I think this number is, for a top limit, is about as reasonable as you can get for the different districts. I mean, who knows? We've never done the mayor separately without a district, but gosh, if you're going to go over $50,000, I mean, and it's worked for years. So why would, anyway, I think that we discussed this thoroughly is the point I'm trying to make. And this was a reasonable number.
Thank you, Dave. See no further discussion. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Hudson?
Aye.
Councilmember Alone?
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Safar?
Yes.
And Mayor Clarkson?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passed 5-0. Item 12.5, resolution number 2020-055, establishing a word count limit for the voluntary candidate statement for the 2020 municipal election. And I'll also be presenting this item. For the upcoming election, the city consolidates the candidate statement printing with the county. The county charges a candidate statement fee at a flat rate for 250 words. The election code does allow the governing body of the local agency to authorize word limitations up to 400 words. Historically, the city of Santa Rosa has allowed up to 300 words for the candidate statements. The county will allow candidate statements over 250 words, but the cost for production will double. Candidates are solely responsible for the cost of their statements, and they are an optional cost. Additionally, the city does not charge a filing fee to run for elected office. The suggested considerations to the policy committee were Santa Rosa's prior allowance of 300 words for candidate statements, or candidates' ability to provide voters with a concise statement using 250 words. After review and discussion at the May 27th, 2020 policy committee meeting, the discussion was to either keep the word limit to 250 or to set the word limit at a maximum of 400 words per candidate and forward to the City Council for the final decision. Staff requests that the City Council establish the word limit for the voluntary candidate statement and take into consideration the costs and benefits the effect will have on potential candidates. Any questions?
I know that Dave and I got this presented to us, and the way I looked at it, or the way I broke it down was, the candidate statement is one of the few chances that you can present your ideas to most all the voters. And the option was to go 250 words. And for those who've actually done this before, that's pretty tight in terms of the number. And for just about double, you might get 400 words. And it was my thought to let this group decide if you would allow up to 400 words and allow candidates to be able to express themselves more fully and to give residents a greater opportunity to see in greater depth where somebody stood, because otherwise they'll be getting stuff mailed out and signs in the lawn. So I think to the extent that we can get one shot, their best shot, even though it's going to cost $1,700, I think that's well within the limits of the money we've set for them. So that was my thought, to give people a chance to have maximum exposure of their philosophy to the voters, and the voters can have as much information as in one spot for them to compare. So those were my thoughts. Scott and then Dave.
I appreciate your thought process that the policy committee went through on this. And if a candidate wants to, stay under the 250 words and make their statement, they can do that if they can write it out and make those statements. But this does allow them at 400 words to make a more complete statement. And so you kind of leave it back to the candidate to choose whether they want to go with the 300 or 250 words, or they want to go with 400 words and provide a more complete statement. So I like the policy as you've recommended from the policy committee.
I might have explained that not all the way. Dave, you want to fill in the blank?
Yeah, you have to choose now whether you want
which way
twice as
Yes.
much. You can still do 250 words, but you have to do it. I could see the value in either one of them. I'm pretty much along the lines that more is less. I mean, to get to 300 words, keep under it would seem like it was difficult until you really got out there and did it. It's a matter of showing priorities, but there are differences. And there are 3 people, 4 people. I mean, we're running and you got to decide. So I really am not against either way. I've never seen 400 before. Maybe somebody can come up with a perfect 400 philosophy. But if you're only going to do 300 and you're going to go from for the
250
one is not as much. But I mean, at one time you could get into a race if you didn't go over $1,000. You didn't have to fill out any of these forms. Well, that's pretty much gone now. I don't know. I'm really torn on this. I know that I could do it for 250, and I know that at regional committees, for people that want to do a written comment, we limit it to 250 words. It could go either way, but frankly, we should all be discussing what we think is best, because this may be the future of elections, or we're setting a tone for future elections.
Sabina.
So there's a reason Twitter has a character limit, because they've shown less is more. And so I think, I personally think people don't like to read lengthy stories. You have them there for, you have their attention span for a short period. Those of us who have run know that nobody wants to get a story out of you. They just, want it short and sweet. And that's would be kind of focus on any campaign material. So, I mean, in my opinion, short and sweet, and keeping it again, but you're giving an option. If somebody really wants to express themselves and is willing to spend $1,700 to do that in their campaign statement, then they should have the option, is what I would say. And, it's up to the candidate what they feel they want to express and how they want to express it. In my personal opinion, like I said, Twitter is short and sweet, and people can express a lot in those few characters. So 250 can be, a good articulate way of expressing what you stand for.
So I think I left Red Bill. He said Phil. Christina, what was our limit last time?
300 words.
So everybody who has served on the San Ramon City Council in the last how many years has had a 300-word limit?
Correct.
If you can't explain why you're able to do something in 300, we got to remember, I'm not going to kid, this is one step above dog catcher. I always jokingly say, in terms of it's certainly where it is on the ballot. The pain of reading through ballot initiatives and then finally getting to a city council and somebody needs to blather for 400 words. You ought to be able to explain why you want to do this in 300 words. It worked before. I think 250 is hard. 400 is just babbling. I mean, that's my view of it. I think it should be 300 like it always has been. I'd like to think the public has been reasonably informed. It is your best opportunity to communicate with the voter, but the voter doesn't want to hear those extra 100 words, I don't think. My view. We can make it whatever we want right now, right?
Can I do a point of clarification? We didn't make this clear. You have to decide 250 words for half the price of more than 250. The more than 250 could go to 400. You could go to 400 and only do 250, but you're going to pay double the price.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm fine with being above the 250.
My only other question was, so with 250, is the candidate paying less than they were paying for 300?
So the city council decides whether the candidate statement is 250 words or more. If it's 250 words, it stays at that flat rate. If the moment the council does anything over 250, whether it's 270, 300, up to 400, that price doubles. Candidates don't get to decide if they choose 250 or more. The council is establishing that limit this evening, whether it's going to be 250 or more.
Now they can do, now if a candidate doesn't file a statement though, they don't pay anything, right?
Correct.
That's their option. Okay.
Right. So the option is we want to go 250 or above.
Yeah.
And making this option means whoever the candidate is, we kind of force them to pay either the 1750 or the 875?
No, we're forcing them to pay 1750 or zero. They're either going to issue a statement or they aren't, right?
Okay.
Correct.
So we are making the decision for the candidate. And we're not giving them an option of this or this. You can go with 250 or 250 plus. We're saying.
Right.
They've never had the option. It's always been set. So there's never been an option. It's always been set. So do we want to have it at 250 or have it be above? And so
I'm fine with it being above.
Yeah.
I would vote for it being above.
Yeah.
I would go with 250 just because I think that's enough.
Dave and Scott, how do you feel?
Well, I'm leaving. If Scott wants to do it, you guys are, I mean, personally, I think exactly what Sabina just said, 250 is right, but this is not the issue. I'm gonna hang, you gotta do it this way. It's just the price is getting up there. That 1301 or whatever, 1306 last time was like, gosh, what happened that we had to jump up so high? I mean, that's the whole reason we supposedly went to even year.
No weight on Scott's shoulders.
Well, yes. I'd like to move the resolution 2020-055, establishing a word count limit as proposed in the resolution.
Of how much?
Well, it's the resolution. I'm moving the resolution, which says 400.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to make sure publicly we talk about the numbers, all right?
I'm sorry.
It's set for 400. Any further discussion? Not seeing any other hands raised. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, Phil seconds it. All right.
Thank you.
Crud.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yeah, what the heck?
Councilmember Alone,
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins,
Yes. Or what the heck, yes.
Vice Mayor
Is it,
Zafar,
is it point of order?
No.
City attorney is what the heck an irony.
The plane to the outfit now.
I'll say no on this one.
no, thank you. Mayor Clarkson,
Yes,
the motion passes with 4 in favor and 1 against.
thank you.
Well, 3.5.
Item 12.6, resolution number 2020-056, requesting and consenting to consolidation of elections and setting specifications of the election order. And I will be presenting this last staff report. The City Council may, by resolution, request that the county elections official to render specified services to the city relating to the conduct of an election. The resolution shall specify the services requested per Elections Code Section 1002, including the request and consent to the consolidation, and then set the specifications of the election order. This resolution would authorize the county clerk's office to administer the November 3rd, 2020 municipal election in San Ramon. The city agrees to compensate the county for expenses incurred in this election. Additionally, this resolution provides a policy regarding candidate statements to be distributed to voter information pamphlets. Request election consolidation specifies the available office, designates poll hours, publishes the notice of election, and specifies the action to be taken in the event of a tie vote. In order to authorize the Contra Costa Elections Department to administer the November 3rd election, the City Council must adopt this resolution and direct the city clerk to submit a certified copy of this resolution to the Registrar of Voters and the County Board of Supervisors no later than July 1st, 2020. Any questions?
Great. First thing we'll do is open a public comment.
If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand button at this time. I have no requests to speak.
All right, we will close the public comment. Questions or a motion for discussion?
Second.
I'll move the resolution 2020-056, requesting and consenting to consolidation of elections and setting the specifications of the election order.
I knew you would.
Is there a second?
That's why I seconded it. Just
You
wanted
got
to-
a second. You got a second after the motion, not before.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Just for, what is specifying the election order mean?
So we consolidate with the county, and then the order in the resolution is where it's being held, when it's being held, the polling locations, and so on and so forth. What's
Thank you, Christina. I just want to make sure everybody knew. Okay, I'm ready to vote.
I think that's also to the point that many times we kind of know what the answers might be, but asking those questions like Phil did allows the public better understand what the heck we're doing sometimes. So thank you, Phil.
Sometimes helps to inform a council member too.
I wouldn't, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilmember Hudson?
Aye.
Councilmember Alone?
Aye.
Councilmember Perkins?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zafar?
Aye.
And Mayor Clarkson?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0. Item 13, city manager comments.
As we all turn our chairs.
Okay, good evening. I know it's late, but I actually do have some comments. I know that's pretty surprising to you all. We, as you know, had a protest this last coming, a very peaceful protest this earlier this week. And we suspect there's about 1,500 people. I would disagree with that previous public comment regarding overbearing or whatever word he used for the presence. There were a couple officers on the roof. There were no officers in the crowd. There was no officers in front of City Hall. And the only other officer engagements were to close intersections down to facilitate the peaceful movement of that crowd that came from way up in Doherty Valley. So certainly we appreciate that it was very peaceful, and folks were able to practice their constitutional rights. Along that line, I would agree with the council, and I will work with Chief Stevens to come up with the best way to help inform not only the council and the public. Much of what's being sent out in the emails, hundreds of emails, much of what's being questioned is actually a product of some misinformation or no information. Specific to the police department, when the incident happened in Minneapolis, the chief and I, way before even the protest started, the chief and I had a few different conversations about just how tragic and horrifying it was, and the likelihood of the negative ramifications that would occur, and certainly they occurred. But the good thing about Chief Stevens is he's been committed and has always been committed, and is the very reason I hired him as the police chief to this community, and ensuring that we build relationships in this community, and we have for the entire existence of the police department, which has not been that long. And some items Councilmember Perkins mentioned too, that the police department does that not many other police departments do. Things like the 5150s, the mental health responses and follow-up. Police departments don't normally follow up on 5150 mental health evaluations. They're responsible to come and find out if you're suicidal or you need to be transported to a hospital. But for many, many years, the mental health system has been reduced significantly. And so we started working with the county hospital on our own, San Ramon Police Department did, to actually work with them because a lot of things is they would go to the hospital, then they would get released. I mean, literally 24 to 72 hours later, and nobody followed up to see. They would give them to go to their personal doctors or whatever. And then these people, because they're in crisis, would not actually go to their personal doctors because they're in crisis. So we started trying to follow up with that. And so I say that because this is an incredibly complex problem. There's HIPAA laws and privacy laws and things that prevent the police to do anything. So we've worked with the county hospital to improve that and see what we could do to assist in those type of situations. And the police department's been doing real well on that. Also, along with that, the community may not be aware that we actually have mental health professionals. We have a team that's countywide where many mental health professionals actually ride around with the police department or ride with the police and go to some of the more severe calls and try and reduce those 5150 calls. There's a lot of the community members that don't know that occurs. A highlight I would point out, and I won't go too long, but when the police are called after hours, which is the normal way the emergency response system is set up, is if it's after hours, the police get called to evaluate and then they transport them. Well, a lot of mental health professionals feel they need some sort of security presence, protection, because people that are in crisis sometimes result to violence. And so there's this complex interaction that takes place in the field that many mental health professionals, if someone's in crisis, would not feel comfortable going alone to a location to assess things. Much of the community probably is not aware, as I think Councilmember Alone mentioned, the Discovery Center, Counseling Center is literally in Doherty Valley Community Center. It is a partnership with the city. We provide them that space. And so we work towards solving as many problems as we can. The police department, the city, the Parks and Community Services Department, I know the mayor does, I do, and the police do participate in the San Ramon Valley Diversity Coalition. And we have regular meetings. And then we also, not only the police department, but the city participates in the Discovery Center Mental Health Committee, which meets on a regular basis to deal with mental health throughout the county. And so when we talk about this broader discussion, it becomes more challenging, and it's very important that people, the community is informed on exactly some of the things that the city does on its own to improve that. And finally, I would just like to direct the city or the community to Senate Bill 230, Senate Bill SB 230, and Assembly Bill 392. Those were both signed into law, and they answer many of the questions specifically to use of force, to de-escalation, to duty to intervene, all these many emails that you have. So when you look at different states, California is ahead in many ways when it comes to producing legislation specific to how police officers' use of force is governed. So that is already taking place. And I know from my discussions with Chief Stevens, and as you're aware, there are also several bills that are being considered right now in response. And so much of this has to be done at the state level. Chief Stevens is very involved with that as well, to search for better solutions and to search for ways that we can continuously improve. So I say that to say that we'll provide you with some updates and some allow for some discussion. When I asked Chief Stevens about doing this, he said, we're an open book. We want to be transparent to the community. We've worked many years to establish relationship with the community. And so how we do, what format we do it, we'll get something put together for the council and as well for the community. Now on to a couple other things that are.
Who's the author first, Joe, before you go on? You said
the author for AB 392 is Weber, and for SB 230 is Caballero, Caballero.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, on a couple other things, it's very cool. Partnership, we're in partnership with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority to use the paratransit vans to their drivers to deliver some of our senior meals. So that's been really effective and very nice. Our senior business assistant, San Ramon Business Assistance Program is now up to 37 companies with about 520 affected employees. The program is assisting with about 29 million in federal funding. So that's going well. Our Easy to Hike, someone mentioned, I can't remember, talked about our trails and what's going on. If you remember, we have an Easy to Hike app that allows you to access all the trails in San Ramon. Well, the Easy to Hike, and it was kind of a breakthrough application. Well, Easy to Hike is blown away with the participation of the community in San Ramon, and that was majorly driven by Council Member Alone's comments and his discussion on open space. Actually, that had a significant uptick after he made a couple announcements doing that. It might have been a couple pictures of cows he sent me, but I'm not sure how that worked. But
maybe they liked Minnie. Maybe liked Minnie in the video I did.
Easy to Hike said that we are one of the top cities based on our population use of the app. So that's pretty good too. And then finally, I'd just like to show our 4th of July run, San Ramon. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19 is going to be a virtual run. So we don't give up here in San Ramon. We find other ways of doing it. And Kathy Hyman and her team came up with an incredible virtual San Ramon run. And this is your virtual San Ramon t-shirt that, I might add, was designed by our own Parks and Community Services folks. And so you may have to run somewhere else, and that's how they're going to do it. And it's kind of like on the honor system, but many members of our community have years of t-shirts going back. And you know, the discussion of even canceling this run was totally out of the question. And matter of fact, I almost think Kathy started to shed a tear when I said, "Can we do this?" And she's, "Oh yeah, we can do this. We can do this." So they came up with it. I think it's brilliant. And the community, this time it'll be a little different, but everybody will be able to get Run San Ramon in. That's it for me, unless anybody has questions.
I think I won that race.
You were the Rosie Ruiz that year, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
All right, Madam Clerk,
Item 14, public comment.
do we have any hands raised to, this is public comment for those who have not yet spoken at public comment.
I do have one request to speak from Courtney Carlson.
Great, thank you. Hello, Courtney, and we, as usual, we ask folks to make their comments 3 minutes or less. Welcome.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me okay.
We can hear you fine. Thank you, Courtney.
Great. So I'm relatively new to engaging with city council meetings, and I don't have anything very eloquent as previous speakers have prepared, but I did engage with this meeting in particular because as some previous folks had mentioned, there were comments on Nextdoor regarding the budget, increasing for the police and decreasing for community programs. So I listened carefully to the responses and explanations that were provided by you and the other people who were speaking in this meeting. I understand that we have cost of living increase, we have annual budget increases are pretty common for a lot of line items and things of that nature. However, I do agree with previous speakers who mentioned that they would rather have some of that funding diverted to community programs, mental health programs. I, again, listened to what you all had to say regarding what we already have in place, and I am proud of that. I think that is notable and something we should continue doing. However, I was somewhat taken aback by the degree of defensiveness that I saw the city council members displaying when responding to public comments. And I acknowledge that it's very difficult to be put in the spotlight in that way, but I really look to leadership to always find room for improvement and to lead by example. And I don't really see that happening at this moment. And especially when we're considering the current political moment we're in, I don't see anything happening from you all or the city of San Ramon, and perhaps I'm missing something, but I don't see any declaration or movement or programming that's going on that's addressing the fact that we have a nationwide problem. And that even if we don't have high levels of police brutality in San Ramon, we have an equal part and responsibility here as well. And so it's very discouraging to me to hear the council members respond in a way that feels that they're personally defending themselves from or absconding themselves from responsibility. And I would really challenge you to look inwards and also consider as a leadership body what you can be doing. Because this whole meeting, all I've heard is that you have been saying what you are doing, and that's fine. I think a lot of the things we have in place are good, but I always think you should strive to do better. And I think we have a lot of room for improvement. I think it stood out to me, especially when a white man said that we don't have any police brutality problem in San Ramon. And while you're entitled to that opinion, I think it stands out because there's not a lot of diversity on the city council itself. And I don't know that you are speaking with or asking the opinions of people of color in San Ramon or listening to their voices. So I just wanted to put it to you, again, with the respect of the work that's on your plate and the position that you're in, please take action. You have been given a lot of suggestions that I think would be workable. We're not asking that you completely defund the police, but to make some changes. And you could do small things starting today.
Very good. Courtney, thank you so much for your comments. Madam Clerk.
That was the only request to speak.
Fantastic. Okay. Next item.
Item 15, city council members and mayor's comments.
I'll start with Scott, Sabina, Dave, and then Phil.
Let's see. I haven't been to any regional meetings, though this Friday we have the East Bay Regional Communication System Authority Finance Committee, followed the following week by the East Bay Regional Communication System Authority board meeting. I spoke briefly to the chief about how wonderful it was that we now have a radio system where police officers that come in on mutual aid. We had some Dublin officers that helped out last week. All we had to do was give them the code, the channels, and they could do that because all of the agencies in Alameda and Contra Costa County are all on the same radio system now. And while it seems so obvious and transparent today, 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. And so bringing an officer in, you'd have to give him a handheld radio to help out and things like that. So it's a big, big deal. And it's a well-run organization. I am looking forward to the opportunity to do some evaluation of police procedures and policies, like I said. But tonight's budget meeting was not the opportunity to make a substantial change in our police programs. This takes thoughtful participation from the community, and it's going to happen, but it's going to be a thoughtful process going forward. So that's all I've got for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sabina.
So I just wanted to comment on last Wednesday when we had one of the largest protests in San Ramon that at least in the 14 years I've lived in San Ramon, I've seen. And I have to tell you, it was heartwarming and beautiful because these were some of the children that have grown up in front of my eyes, the high schoolers that are going off to college, the college students that are back, that really organized this. And then what I saw with them were their parents. And I really appreciated Joe and Craig, how the city department and how the police department really helped manage all of this in terms of making sure that the crowd was provided a safe space, that we were provided the city hall, which is really the hall of the people, for them to be able to come and express their opinions in front of that hall and speak their mind. I'm constantly learning from my own kids because I am older and I have things and I have baggage and I have ideas that I come with. And then we see these young people who are so tapped in now, who are so aware, and they teach us so many things. So hearing some of these kids obviously talk about their experiences living in San Ramon, and all of them said, we understand, we live in San Ramon. One of the speakers even mentioned that the partnership they had with the San Ramon PD is the way different police departments should be working. So I think all of us are going to have to start listening to this younger population, get them a seat at the table and really engage with them to understand where they're coming from. We're known for our schools. We're known for raising good kids. Our under 18 population and our over 65 population is the same percentage. And so when these kids, now that they're home, now they're back from college, or they're just heading over to college, chose to get together to exercise their right of First Amendment to speak about this, we should really be listening to them. And like I said, this was probably, for me, this is the beginning of something which is going to bring about some change, some discussions that we're going to start having. Like I said, the chief has been very open to hearing me out as well as, engaging with the community. Our department has been very engaged with the community, but I think there's sometimes silos that we create, which from our position of power, we may not see those. So just being part of that crowd, being, a fly on the wall and hearing what some people were saying was just amazing and beautiful. And it really spoke to what an amazing group of kids this town has also raised. And the parents that were there to support their children. I heard from a lot of parents saying, well, we just came because our kids said, you want to come with us or you can stay home. So I do want to thank you, Joe, for really creating that space for our community to come together, to express themselves. I personally think San Ramon is changing in a big way. And we need to continue to understand that community and see how we learn from some of the things that are happening. Like I said, Twitter is there for a reason. Some of these messages have also been short pictures, things like that, and we can certainly use that to communicate out what we're doing. We not only have 2 citizens academies, we also have a youth citizens academy, police academy. And so if we're, how do we get engagement with that youth academy? How do we use that space to engage our youth, to listen to them, to find a way to partner with them in our community? And so just want to say, that was a beautiful experience, at least for me personally, to be part of that crowd. And like I said, we can now have a parade down Bollinger, because we really proved like it was, this silent crowd, which was coming down all the way from one end of Bollinger to City Hall and just dispersing as silently, but being able to express themselves in front of City Hall. So yeah, kind of wanted to share that with you.
Thanks, Sabina. Dave.
Yeah, bear with me. I'm going to try and spit this out and get to the right point. It was January 31st, 2018, and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, through its first meeting to try and get something called AB 617. This was new legislation. We were going to start from the ground up. We took people from the community to design how we were going to clean up their air, and we were going to fund their plan. During this meeting, 4 or 5 hours before I was officially become chair, I hadn't opened my mouth, I hadn't said a word. And one of the guys on the panel said, "Why should I listen to this old white guy?" Now, I wasn't actually offended. I was like surprised. What did I do? Well, the next morning, I went to a International Government League meeting, and at 8 o'clock, they had what they called Race Forward. Gare was putting it on, I believe. And in that meeting for 3 hours, we listened to what people had to say of what the problem is. Changed my mind. I reported this out to City Council in February, to the Mayor's Conference, and to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, that there's no doubt in my mind in the next 18 months, you are going to have legislation that each one of us, like we do with ethics and sexual harassment, are going to have to take this course every 2 years. Bay Area Air Quality Management District took it serious. We started sending people to Gare, everyone there, I believe. We brought in the speaker from Gare to speak to us publicly. And each one of our members was given a book the following year called The Color of Law. And if you think there are things out there that open your eyes, read that book. That'll change your thinking immediately. We brought in the author of Color of Law and had him speak to us for an hour in questions. We set up a diversity group, similar to what you've done here, Mayor. After all this year, People came to a meeting during public comment and said, when are you going to do something? The board listened to them. They set up their own subcommittee for diversity, and they're meeting with people and they're saying, we've got to do it better. Well, what we found out is the makeup of Bay Area Air Quality Management District almost concisely mirrors the community, percentage-wise. Asian, white, Black, Hispanic. We're right there. You will have legislation coming down. It will be similar to what we have to do for ethics and for sexual harassment. It's been in the making for a while. This last incident will probably put it on, I mean, full force forward. It's coming. To say that we're doing nothing is a mistake. We've been at this for a couple of years and we realized we probably should have had it done last year. There will be changes in the process right now. Just be patient. It's not going to be years, it's going to be weeks.
Thanks, Dave. Phil.
I'd also just like to echo some of Sabina's comments. One of my daughters participated in that and in that protest, and I think it actually points to the good relationship that the community has with the police here. That it was peaceful because people decided to be peaceful, not because the police were there. The police were facilitating in terms of traffic control and things like that. That's how it should be done. And I don't think our community is the same as some other communities. And I can't help the fact that I'm a white guy to say that. But are there better things to do? Absolutely. Our problems are different than some other communities. And we hear that regularly from folks. And painting it all with a broad brush, I don't think is the correct approach. And we've taken actions to address issues in our community, and we'll do more. And that's, I think, what the important message is that the city manager was also was doing a good job of putting forward. And when you get 100, 150 emails that are just a copy and paste of the same thing, people aren't really putting thought into what's going on in our community. They're cutting and pasting something. Understandably, they're frustrated by stuff. I am too. But it's certainly one size doesn't fit all in terms of solutions, nor does it with problems. And I hope we can continue to get better. I'm sure we will. And it's an opportunity to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Sabina.
I just wanted to ask something, if I could. I think all of us have our hearts in the right place. If, as a council, you would like to put out a statement out into the community showing our support, showing that we're hearing the community, and that we do stand for diversity and inclusion, and making sure that we're committed to listening to all our citizens as well. So I know Pleasanton has done it. I don't know which other city, but we are a small city. We're not going to solve world hunger, but I think by making a statement, by saying something like that, we're on the right side of history. So, just putting it out there, I would love your support if that's something the council would like to do collectively.
Thank you, Sabina. Seeing no other comments, one of the things that I talked about earlier, and again with the rest of the council and the city manager, if we could bring together with our police chief, perhaps using the diversity committee to underline and start a process where we have this conversation with the community. This has been going on for a number of years now with the diversity committee. A lot of them have put a lot of hard work in. I think they would be a good group to tap back into and take their leadership. And they are both familiar with and committed to our community. And I think they would be a great resource for us to start working from and working with. So I look forward to them. I know they want to meet soon. I look forward through the city manager's office that we can get our police involved in that, which they have been, by the way. The police have been at every one of our diversity meetings and are very involved and are not unfamiliar with that, just like they've been very involved in the mental health advisory group that we meet at least every 2 months under the leadership of Kathy Shiverton with the Discovery Center. So I look forward to that. Seeing no other comments, Madam Clerk? Yes, go ahead, Scotty.
You know, there's another group that we could call upon to also provide input. That's the graduates of our Citizens Police Academy. And I'd like to at least tap into their, they've got some basic knowledge of what has, you know, what does it take, at least on a small level. I know 14 weeks doesn't make you a police officer by a long shot, but it certainly gives you a great deal of insight into the issues related. And so opportunities to include them, I think, would be wise.
Good. Thank you, Scott. Madam Clerk, is there anything else tonight on the schedule?
Item 16, adjournment.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Let's adjourn.
No, let's stick around.
Let's click.
All those in favor, say